Hey everybody, welcome to Froggy Stocks on the Site. Financial advice, entertainment purpose only, not financial advisor. Going to put up the space call that's going on right now.
That'll be an interesting call tomorrow. Hopefully they'll be able to make it on. Young Jazz, what's going on?
Hey guys, what's up? How are we?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just wanted to hop on and pretty much last year or I made quite a bit of money with the short squeeze. My best friend just told me to put a bit of money into AMC, and I'm thinking about chucking some more. And I was just wondering where's the best place for me to put it, like Ape or AMC? Like, how are we? What's happening?
I mean, I cannot give you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and I don't really necessarily even have an opinion on one being truth is, I don't know. So we'll see if we can get someone else up here who may have an opinion on that.
I'm personally buying Ape because it has the same voting rights and it's half the price of AMC currently. I have my full AMC position that I need. If it does squeeze, I have plenty to make me rich, but Ape's at a complete discount right now. Same voting rights, could be convertible. So I'm personally just loading up on Ape.
100%. I'm gonna give it a look. All right, ciao guys.
You know, the question the gentleman asked earlier about why are people still in this play? Honestly, all the catalysts we have going into 2023 are huge. Retail popcorn, 300 million annual revenue stream, branded credit card, co-branded credit card, possibly 1.5 billion revenue stream, and also one of the biggest box offices in the past 20 years. So
yeah, I agree. I wasn't trying to be, a negative Nancy. I still think people want to go to the theaters, but I think it's an important question to ask, because who knows what the future holds, because maybe some people are going to get more into virtual reality movies, but then again, you still want the experience of going in the big picture, or maybe even movie theaters might evolve in the future in some way.
Listen, Decca, I'll always compare it to going to a bar versus drinking at home. Like if the argument was that, you can do it at home just as easily and it's just as enjoyable, bars wouldn't exist. And there's multiple bars in every single town. I mean, you can go to the smallest little podunk town and there will be a bar there, I guarantee it. So the thing is it's more of a social experience, like you just said. I don't see that ever being wiped off the face of the earth, especially here in America. That is what we produce, is our movies, and they're meant to be seen on the big screen.
Yeah, and I think maybe even if they can find a way to make it more modern day, to get people out more, like you said, the socializing thing.
Well, Decca, did you see last year they were doing they were doing the football games in theaters so people could go, and they even had like football style snacks and food. And then they did concerts as well. So like live concerts, Chance the Rapper, other people did that as well in theaters. So it was exclusive to those theaters. So, I mean, I think they're exploring other revenue paths where, they have to, it's kind of like a trial and error. Like, do people actually want to come to a theater and hang out with a bunch of, other people and watch football? Do they want to come watch a concert? What brings in revenue? And then they have to kind of, I think, compare profits and then decide what's best. So we've definitely seen AMC try some different routes, which is extremely bullish in my opinion. These are all ideas that shareholders came up with. I think they even did some WWE or UFC, I can't remember, but these were all shareholder ideas. So we'll just see what the future holds. I see Swing up here. He has his hand up. He's my other amazing co-host today. I want to give him an opportunity to chime in. So what's going on, Swing? How you been?
Oh, I'm doing well, doing well. Yeah, I originally raised my hand to respond to the gentleman that was asking about Ape versus AMC, and Spence pretty much hit everything that I was going to share. But I basically concur in that. If you own Ape and own AMC, you have the same exact ownership stake. It's the same voting right, same ownership stake. The amount of the capital structure of AMC that you own is the same. And any quote unquote future dilution that happens to Ape will affect AMC also. The fact they, in theory, and we had Doomberg on here, in theory, they should be trading 1-for-1 because of what they represent far as, or close to it anyway. It may never be exactly to the penny, but the idea is that if you own, one share of Ape or you own one share of AMC, you have the same amount of ownership stake in the underlying company. So there's no reason to basically not, in my opinion, buy Ape, and that's what I've been focusing any of my buying power on, because it's like, okay, I see there being a lot less risk to the asset that's undervalued compared to its partner. And the only underlying reason that I can make sense of is there being some sort of arbitrage that's going on with the options chain that they're using to try and suppress it or something like that. I don't know. Time will tell. And not financial advice, all that fun stuff, but at least where I think it makes the most sense. I see two things that in theory should be worth the exact same thing, and one is like 40% off. I'm gonna buy that. That just makes sense to me. So
I would just say, Swing, the only thing I forgot to say is keep in mind that I'm watching like a hawk on when I think Adam Aron may decide to dilute Ape, which means they're going to put more shares out for sale into the market. I'm going to keep my eye on that specifically, just in case for some unforeseen reason he does decide to come out and sell billions of shares at $10 or something. I'm going to keep my eye on Ape for that reason. If they do speak noise of dilution on Ape, I will probably trim my position to half of what I own, just to have that cash out so I can either A, buy the dip, or B, put it back into AMC. So, but I highly doubt he's going to dilute anytime soon.
I agree with that, and I guess the part that doesn't make logical sense as far as the way the market is currently operating is that in theory, AMC and Ape, because of the way that what claim they have on the company and the company's revenues, et cetera, and they should be trading 1-for-1. In theory, should they dilute Ape, it should also affect the price action of AMC, and I guess time will tell if they go down equally lockstep with each other. No one can really predict that, but at the same time, doing so erases debt, which is obviously bullish for AMC, because then your share of AMC equals more revenues, less debt of the underlying company. So, that in that, yes, there's more shares to go around, but there's also less debt going around per share too. So that in itself is a good thing. If they were able to sell, 100 million shares at $10, there goes $1 billion of debt.
I was wondering, Swing, do you have any, or Spence or anybody, if you have an opinion on why at the end of the day they're able to sort of hammer Ape down like they were? Or honestly, I saw someone speculating, like, did Adam sell shares? You know what I mean? Like, I think people go into panic mode. So,
well, if he sells shares, you'll see a filing.
Exactly. So I haven't seen a filing. No one's seen a filing. I thought it was a weird sell-off there, but I almost wonder if certain institutions or entities were able to buy up Ape, if they will now do these sort of psychological end of day kind of things, or if, you know, people could be potentially day trading it, like they have with AMC in the past. I'm not sure. It's just interesting.
I think it was either 100% short interest or them generating new FTDs. They obviously cleared some FTDs a couple days ago. So they could just be recirculating that, borrowing a bunch of shares. And, you know, one thing that I kind of caught on to with the FTD clearing is you can cover an FTD with a security that's like the security you're actually failing to deliver. So I'm wondering if by the REG SHO regulations, if they actually borrowed AMC to cover Ape, I wonder if they're allowed to do that.
Hey, real quick, before I'm going to head out, I wanted
hang on
to
one
say...
second, Scotty. Just a moment. I'm sorry. I have a question from CJ saying, has it been confirmed that any Ape dilution will go toward AMC debt, or is that just the wish of the community? Did Adam ever actually say what the intent would be with diluting Ape? Did he say that it would be for paying down debt?
Here's what people need to understand, that paying down all the debt is not a good thing necessarily. Why would we raise $1 billion to pay down a loan that's only at 2.5%? You can make 20% on your cash while your loan is only 2.5%. So maybe just paying down the most high interest debt would be in his best interest. If he raises 1.5 billion, pays off 500 million in debt, puts another billion in cash in the bank, that lines AMC up to make more acquisitions and expand the company right before 2023, which is going to be one of the biggest box offices of the past 20 years. So just keep in mind that paying off every debt is probably not the best thing to do.
Okay, I don't know who was actually next. I saw multiple hands up, but Scotty, since you got to jump off, go for it.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking over anybody. That was somebody else.
Oh, I saw you unmuted. Okay, who was it?
I don't know.
Go, whoever wants to go and go. I was about to leave
I'd say something real quick. It's okay. Earlier, I was watching videos. I just want to chime in on the live stream here. Thanks for everybody being here. Long-term AMC and Ape holder. That is January 28th of 21. I've held 3,000 shares and now 3,000 of both. But one thing I wanted to get out there, that I true-heartedly believe, I chimed in on Lou's channel earlier. He's got more FUD out today saying the AMC will be lucky to hit $30 a share, blah, blah, blah.
Wait,
just
that guy's still around?
Yeah, he's still out there.
He doesn't ever leave. I mean, he got his account suspended.
It's so obvious. Today's videos are lucky to hit 30, pretty much is the way I took it. And it could still rip, lucky to hit 30, etc. But just wanted to hear anybody's thoughts on that. I think we all know what we're holding. And thanks for the community. That's it.
Yeah, he seems to be like, it really does seem to me, and I know it sounds crazy and tinfoil hat, whatever, but it seems that he really came here and built a following of AMC people and then has just fudded like so many times. And what's super bullish about him saying that now is the last time he was saying anything close to that, the stock absolutely ripped. He was actually saying he was getting out of the play, and so were other people who he holds near and dear to him, I guess. His four horsemen all were getting out of the play, and then the stock absolutely ripped. So we were on a space just like this, and it was pretty amazing to witness. I think it did run at that time back to around 30. If I don't remember
32.
100%. Okay, it was. So I'm super bullish that he's saying that, to be honest. I'm not going to go watch his videos and give him clicks or anything, but I appreciate you coming with that information.
Got a lot of stains on his shirt.
Can I just say something on that? Oh, hello everyone. Tara, Swish, Spencer, Stephen, Decker, and everyone else.
Hi. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Scott, I don't really see any sense in watching Lou. You know, we all know he's all about fart. So really, yeah, there's no reason for watching him. And I just wanted to comment on what Deca said. You know, he said that people might be watching stream, or tuning into metaverse and all of that. When you think about it, this streaming industry is a bit overcrowded. There's Netflix, there's Disney, there's Paramount, there's HBO, there's loads of competition, and AMC is in a unique you know place where it doesn't really have much competition, and the people who are invested in AMC, they actually believe in AMC. We, the people who actually go and watch the movies, we are actually the fundamentals. As much as people say, the fundamentals of AMC are questionables, the investors, they believe in AMC. Therefore, the investors will actually, keep watching the movies and keep AMC going, even if there's doubters. That's all I gotta say. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, I had my hand raised. So I think it's nice to be skeptical because skepticism can make you smart. It's good to be skeptical, but I do want to say that I agree with you. That I think that they can really make it where people want to get out again, like as in a concert setting, and go out and maybe make these venues a little more like a concert setting and get people excited about going out again. And you're right, it is overpopulated. The streaming, there's so many streaming platforms. You're right. So I just wanted to say that I do think there is hope for AMC, but at the same time, it is also important to be skeptical, because if you're not skeptical, you're not being smart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree, but at the same time, you have to look at what they are doing and what they are exploring, and different paths and revenue ideas. So go for it, Spence. I saw you unmute.
Oh yeah. So there's a massive problem with streaming, and that's what you said was dilution. There's too many platforms with too much different content spread out over it. But now you have streaming companies pairing up, movie production companies pairing up with AMC, like Disney. So now I have my Disney Plus subscription. I get special discounts at AMC already added on with my Stubs account. You can't beat that. There's no other streaming platform. They're either going to have to join them or they're going to have to shut down. Netflix is either going to have to get on board with AMC or they're not going to survive, because Disney is buying up everything. Every bit of content they can get their hands on, from classic movies to freaking anime titles. And if I have to choose a streaming platform right now, I'm obviously going to choose Disney or AMC On Demand, because I'm a loyal customer, which we have one of the biggest loyal customer bases in the world now. AMC has one of the largest investor consumer bases of any company in the world, maybe other than Tesla. So these streaming companies are going to have to figure out what they're doing soon, because these rate hikes they're doing and telling people you can't share your accounts and stuff like that, that's not going to fly. So what Disney and AMC is doing right now is setting the mood for what we're going to see in the future.
So I had a question from Matthew in my DMs. He was asking if anyone can explain the market cap for Ape. He was saying that it doesn't add up with the price and available shares. And then he also asked about Threshold, if there's any thoughts about what happened with Threshold. I don't know if Spence, you or Swing want to chime in on either of those points.
Yeah, the Threshold list, they either covered some shares, which is why we see our price action, or they basically borrowed more shares to cover and generate more FTDs. Effectively, you can cover an FTD by borrowing shares of the same or like stock. So they might have just temporarily covered, or they actually did put money in cover, and that's why we have price action.
Yeah, I think it's important to note the whole borrowing aspect. Like, you don't even have to buy it. You just pay the borrow fee and borrow it from Long and give it to the clearing and say, hey, here we've covered. Yes, they need to then eventually pay back that that they borrowed, but they still are short, or they're potentially even doubling up on their short, but they might be doing it at a higher price point, and so that just kind of kicked the can. Also ways through the options chain too, where, you know, while there's not an options chain on Ape, there is the AMC One chain, which represents Ape. So if someone bought deep in the money calls that were leaps, they might be able to satisfy, you know, some of the, because they have rights to those shares at that point. They might be able to cover using that trick as well. So there's all sorts of ways. And in fact, I mean, Dr. Suzanne Trimbath, if you don't know who she is, she wrote a book, Naked, Short, and Greedy. She actually worked for the DTC, and also has helped set up exchanges in other countries. So she's very familiar with clearing. She had a tweet thread this weekend talking about, you know, her standpoint is, rather than fixing the current broken system, you just get out of the system, far as you just buy direct from the company using transfer agents. She said, you know, Dave Lauer wants to fix the system. That's his thing. Great, more power to him. But her opinion is the system's so broken, you don't even mess with it, and you should just buy direct from DRS. Not to turn this into DRS conversation, but the whole point of why I bring that up is, you know, she, in that thread, she talks about how the fact that the threshold security list and the short sale restriction rule, as far as, you know, stocks that have been dropped by more than 10%, all of these things, the system is so broken and so leaning towards the bad players in the market that, in her opinion, they're basically pointless systems, because it's all self-regulatory. You have the big banks that are in charge of regulating themselves. Like, you basically have the crooks also have the badges at the same time. So because of that, what do you expect? Crime. That's what I expect. So.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here, was babysitting the neighbor's dog for a minute, pull out my big bag of AMC popcorn. They both start doing a dance in the living room. Got it on the live stream. I should get paid for advertising. It's called AMC Popcorn.
That would be the next thing. We have AMC and Chewy have a deal together and have the AMC popcorn. That would drive the media a little bit crazy, bringing a former Cohen company into the mix.
You give Mark an aneurysm, dude.
What's that? Popcorn for dogs?
Yep, AMC popcorn.
That would be genius. That would be genius.
The only
That's
downside,
what a lot of coffee places do. Like, when I go through and get a coffee with my little dogs, they're like, do you want like a doggy treat? And they'll put whipped cream, like a little cup of whipped cream, and put like a little doggy treat in there for it. It's super cute.
The only downside to that, as an owner of a small dog, the farts from that might be deadly. I don't know. You know, popcorn farts are bad, but popcorn farts from dogs, I can only imagine how bad that might be.
You hear that?
My
Buster?
dog loves popcorn, and she doesn't fart, so I don't know what's going on there, Swing. But
oh, I've never given my dog popcorn. I just know.
I give my dog everything. It's probably not good, but yeah, she loves popcorn.
Turning into Ape Radio, talking about fart jokes. I'm out of here.
Oh no! I see S up here with his hand up. Go for it. You have the floor.
Hey guys and gals. Hey, I was just, you know, we're kind of forgetting the fact that they still have to close these billions of synthetic shares. I mean, the movie theater will survive and AMC will thrive and so on and so forth. But we still just forget that, I mean, they still haven't closed their position. So, I mean, they're still on the hook. So, regardless, I mean, they can kick the can down the road for a while, but at some point, I mean, the margin call is going to come calling, and the government's not going to be there to bail them out. So, I mean, you know, we're kind of making the movement known, you know, what's actually going on in the market. I know they absolutely hate it when we tag the SEC and Gensler and all the rest of these clowns in on our posts that you know, all the corruption that goes on in the market. But you know, that's the regardless, I mean, the market that they've created. I mean, these hedge funds have sold billions of synthetic shares, IOUs to all of us, the shares that didn't exist, and at some point they have to close these out. So I mean, you asked what the thesis is behind owning AMC and this and that. It's the fact that, you know, that hedge funds haven't closed their positions. So I mean, that's all you really need. So I mean, it's the most talked about stock in the entire market. You don't hear about Amazon, you don't hear about Apple, you don't hear about any of these other companies that can't keep AMC out of their mouth. So they're on the hook, and that's just the way it is. So I mean, that's the thesis behind our long position. Is at some point they got to close. So that's it. That's all I really have.
Yes, I got invited to a space last week and was invited up to speak, and they were talking about just that. They were talking about Apple, Amazon. They were talking about streaming services and the future there, and Netflix and so on. And someone came up, someone who follows me, so they followed me into the space. Then they came up to speak, and they we had sort of discussed AMC, and I, you know, did my spiel or whatever. I've done it here multiple times regarding, you know, streaming versus going to the theater, and my bullish stance on movie theaters. And he wanted to ask me a question and, you know, aimed it at me. And then this other finance guy chimes in on my behalf, responds to him and says, "We don't want to talk about AMC here." And it was literally like the spite and the anger in his voice. It made me wonder, like, it made me question, is this guy okay? So I did a little DD on the guy, if you will, and saw that he was moving from the Chicago area to down to Florida. And I'm thinking to myself, like, does this guy work for Citadel? Like, he literally had so much spite in him about AMC. And I interrupted him right away. And I said, hold on. AMC is the largest movie theater chain, the oldest running movie theater chain in the United States, and we're not allowed to talk about AMC? Like, you're joking, right? Yeah. And the host and co-hosts, who thankfully are buddies of mine, said, you know, no, she's allowed to respond. Like, she's allowed to talk about that. So yeah, they're almost trying to, at this point, make meme stocks into such a joke that no one's even allowed to mention them. If you do, you're ridiculed. You're treated like you just don't know what you're doing, or you don't know what you're talking about, and so on and so forth. And that, to me, is so detrimental, more so than I would say, you know, even like guys like Ken Griffin at this point, because these are the little soldiers out doing all the footwork to shut people down and put out any fires that we're lighting, and try to, like, get people to not be allowed to even talk about it in a room with, you know, 500 plus people. And I just think that that is so wrong. Like, this is a ticker on the NYSE, just like any other one. Why would we not be allowed to talk about it? And I think he was a little bit angry because he had a large position in Netflix, is extremely bullish on Netflix. And I explained to him that, in my honest opinion, I think the numbers for Netflix are extremely skewed because of the pandemic, because they sort of had a monopoly during that time. Their numbers were extremely inflated. Now you've seen Disney Plus and other streaming services who have popped up on the scene. Apple even has their own streaming service, which, I'm sorry, but the money that goes into their content just blows everything else out of the water. Like, they've already won awards, like their movies on Apple. So good luck there and competing with that. And then you have Disney just, you know, today announcing that they're doing this teaming up Disney Plus, Disney streaming service, with AMC Theaters. So I think that, sadly, I told him this. I said, your Netflix numbers are inflated. And I think that's why we saw a huge dip for Netflix and, their subscriber count decrease. And they said, oh, well, that was because of the Russian-Ukraine conflict and, attributed it to that. I said, well, we'll see what the future holds there.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're afraid. They're afraid to bring more people into the movement, right? I mean, because but then again, if they would have let it run its natural course last year when we were at 77 in June, they would have let it run to 300, 350, somewhere in that range. I mean, everybody probably would have taken their money and ran. But at this point, so much has been discovered in the corruption in the market, and Citadel in particular, and all their illegal practices that they do on a daily basis. Honestly, for him, for his reputation, it would have been better for him to let it squeeze, right? I mean, just let the orders go direct to market and stop rerouting all of our orders and stop doing PFOF and all the rest of it. But I mean, it's amazing this has gone on this long, and yet we're sitting with our buy orders at I've said it 1,000 times, but we're going 80% buy orders, but yet at the same time we've gone down for a year straight, a year and a half. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, they continue to do their illegal practices with no repercussions. But I mean, at some point the money tap's going to be turned off. I mean, they can't continue this forever. I know they're kicking the can and they're opening up additional what was it said the other day? They opened up additional lines of credit, and they pushed their bad bets onto other entities and everything else. But at some point,
today, they're begging people to lend out their shares. I just saw someone commented on the space call comment section, and they put up a screenshot of their brokerage emailing them to say, please join the lending service and lend out your shares. So highly don't recommend doing that. Just hang on to your stuff and don't let them borrow. Really quick, I don't want to cut you off. I want you to continue. So don't forget what you're about to say. But I did get a DM from Rhonda who says that the space is not showing anywhere on Twitter. So once again, they're suppressing AMC spaces. Not surprised. She says that she can't see it at the top. She hasn't seen it anywhere. She had to actually come directly to my profile in order to find the space. So if you guys can do me a huge favor, you can go to that little comment bubble and retweet the space, or you can hit the little arrow and share the space in your own tweet as well. If you like what you're hearing and you feel inclined to do so, I appreciate it immensely. Also, make sure you're following Spence and Swing and other speakers who come up here. When you like what they say, you appreciate what they have to say, give them a follow. If later down the road you find out maybe you don't, then you can always unfollow them. But it's just a nice gesture. And people, they put themselves out there coming up here and braving me to come speak on these spaces. So I appreciate you guys who come and add to the conversation. Okay, S, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you. One other thing, like in terms of the APE equity versus AMC. I mean, so with AMC, the money has been going direct to hedge funds, whereas the APE money is going direct to AMC. I mean, correct. I mean, where we want the buying pressure with APE as well, because obviously the higher the price goes and the more money AMC can raise and pay off their debt that much faster. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're shooting for. Plus, we have a preferred equity versus a common. I mean, isn't that kind of the isn't that kind of the narrative that we should follow? I mean, I know we want to buy both and we want to keep the buying pressure on both, but I mean, if we push with no option chain on APE, we should be able to push it higher, correct, without synthetics. I mean, is that what you guys are thinking?
Here's some back to the loaning of people's shares point. I've got something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and we'll get right back to what you were saying. This had to do with what you were saying earlier. These fractional shares are an absolute disaster. Mm-hmm. I think everybody should round up. If you have fractional shares, I think you should round them up to a full share, because say 3 people have a fractional share of APE or AMC, you therefore then don't actually own any rights to the share. The broker holds it, and they can loan that out anytime they want, whether your share lending is on or off. So I'm thinking these fractional shares are probably part of the biggest problem that we have that we just don't know about yet. So I was wondering personally what other people's thoughts were on that. But I think rounding out to whole numbers on your shares is probably a pretty important step.
That's unreal. There's always kind of a loophole. I mean, there's always kind of they're always trying to look for some advantage, in the mix somewhere.
Yeah, these fractional shares didn't really start until Robinhood and such brokerage apps popped up on our phones. Of course, they want us buying fractional shares because that gives them rights to, for say half of the apes, 2 million apes, all each are splitting a fractional share, right?
Wow.
That's a lot of shares out there that they could be borrowing over and over and over again. So,
I mean, is that kind of what you see though in terms of ape? You see those 10 million shares to borrow. We've seen that numerous days, and which it always surprised me. You'll see the cost to borrow is somewhere in like the 20% range, and then next thing you know, it's at 8%, and yet it's the same 10 million shares each and every day, and it's 10 million. 10 million even, I guess. That's always my question. I mean, where do those come from? Are those coming from the institutions? Because obviously, a majority of retail, they're not going to sell at this point, I wouldn't think.
Just the circular option of failure to deliver, borrowing, covering, and the options chain, man. It's big circle. Like Apex Clearing CEO said, we can generate endless liquidity. Well, AMC's been such a corrupted stock over the past so many years. They can literally just keep loaning it and borrowing it and shorting it and loaning it and borrowing and shorting it. And then when you get people dumb enough to jump in on the weekly options chain for AMC and get their premiums blown out, you then put people in risk for, especially people selling covered calls or whatever, you put at risk for shares being transferred through the options chain. So there's a ton of things. Personally, if I had it my way, if everything went Spence's way, there would be no retail buying options on AMC whatsoever. Everybody would have rounded shares. There would be no fractional shares. Mm-hmm. And nobody would be doing anything with a payment for order flow broker. Everybody would be buying fill or kill limit orders through the IEX, and nobody would be with an ISDA bank. Those are the top things that I would do personally, and DRS.
Yeah.
Because I think when you add it all together, that's what's really killing the retail community, because we've been talking about getting away from Robinhood for 16 months. Every time we have a major catalyst where the price is moving or like this dividend, I get people in my DMs blowing me up like, oh no, Robinhood's screwing me over. I'm like, why are you still with Robinhood, bro?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're the ones who started this mess. I mean, there was other brokers that went through this, took away the buy button, but I mean, they were the main culprit, that started this, I mean, fuckery. I mean, a long time ago,
Well, I mean, Robinhood was just talking shit a couple weeks ago when they put hashtags Ape Strong together when this dividend news came out, and they were talking about how they're going to do the right thing and this and that. They've been silent since then because they got busted. They got caught doing something funky with the ape options. And that's why the OCC issued the statement that they were under investigation. I guarantee you it had something to do with Robinhood.
Well, who started the option? Who started the option chain on ape to begin with? I mean, it was never supposed to exist. I mean, they were trying to sneak that one under the radar as well, were they not?
And that's the problem. Not even 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the OCC said the options are under investigation by their lawyers now, the OCC comes out further and says we need to boost our liquidity requirements in case of a hedge fund or a market maker default. I mean, they just came out with that. Yeah. So Robinhood's probably so far underwater right now for what they just did with Ape that they know they're going to default.
Wow. So what happens in that case? I mean, so all these people that they still owe shares to, they have to go purchase them on the open market. I mean, wouldn't that increase the price? I mean, because they've had all these shares they've sold and put IOUs into these customers' accounts. I mean, what happens in that case?
I'm not sure if Robinhood defaults. I'm not sure if insurance takes care of it or what goes on. But I do know that anybody with Robinhood, if you're at risk for default, I don't think they're backed up. I think it's, what is that, Fudu or Fudus or whatever they call it. So you're not really insured in any form in case they do go insolvent. That's why I say you got to get away from these shady brokers like Webull and Robinhood.
Yeah, but what happens? What happens in the case with? I mean, so I know like Schwab owns TD Ameritrade and all this other stuff. But I mean, what happens in the case? I mean, so again, we've been buying these IOUs for 2+ years now. I mean, What happens when the price does skyrocket? I mean, because when AMC goes, when it gets the momentum again, and we're clipping 70, 75, 80, and we're going on and so forth. I mean, what happens in that case? They have to purchase these shares on the open market, which in turn would create additional momentum. But I mean, but they sold them to us for, I mean, anywhere from, I bought some of mine in the 40s, but I mean, I bought some lower as well. But I mean, they're gonna pay the spread on the ones they sold to you for 40, and when it's hitting at 80 or whatever, are they going to try to buy them back before then, or what happens in that case?
So if this squeezes out and these brokers get in trouble and they got to buy back and they don't have the money, they're going to have to give a lot of their blue chips over to the DTCC on loan for cash, and that'll come out of the DTCC's insurance policy. They actually set up that program about a year ago, I think. Like came out with a statement on it, and that's why we're all sitting here like, why would they set this program up if they knew there wasn't a problem?
Yeah. So they're taking them in as a loan, or taking them in as they use as collateral against their other stock positions.
Yeah, give us your Google stock and we'll give you cash, and you can cover your ignorant AMC short.
Wow. I mean, if people don't see this as something that has the potential to go absolutely parabolic, I mean, I think they're completely short-sighted. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, I mean, it's just, I mean, I think these guys are playing with fire. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time now, but I mean, they've been kicking the can. But like I say, without we always hear about these reverse repos, and I mean, those things are crazy. I mean, $2.2 trillion that they're loaning to these banks to even out their books on a nightly basis. I mean, that's unreal. I mean, and it's been this way for what, 60 plus days.
Think about this. You just had news come out today, literally today, that the DOJ short selling probe is said to be focusing on trades with Amazon, Microsoft, JP Morgan, and such. And they're literally talking, from what I read, it looks like they're talking about how these entities are targeting smaller companies, which is exactly what we talked about for years.
Right.
Citadel owns a lot of Amazon. So if you have Amazon and you want them to do good, what do? You short the competitions into the dirt, and you eat up the market share for pennies on the dollar, and go figure, the apes were right again. And Gasparino's now going to have to cover this news looking like a complete jackass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't take much. I mean, he is a complete jackass, but I mean, you look at this. I mean, they've been doing this. I mean, you read those articles. I mean, that's what Bezos was planning on doing. I mean, they were planning on bankrupting AMC, and then they were planning on picking up the scraps, and he works in conjunction with Citadel. I mean, I read that a long time ago, and it would have been Amazon Theaters, and everything would have been, they would have made the profit on their short, and they wouldn't have paid any taxes, and everything would have gone on, just like they've destroyed all these other companies, Toys R Us, Kmart, Blockbuster, all these other companies they've destroyed. They were going to follow the same blueprint, and they hire these consulting companies to run the companies from the inside out. I mean, just all the corruption that goes on this stuff, and then they short the company to the point where the company can no longer raise capital to operate. I mean, it's just unreal, all the corruption that goes into this, that's allowed by the government. And then in turn, we hear that Citadel is shorting the treasury bonds with money that's loaned to them by the government. I mean, just the shit just keeps getting deeper and deeper,
Well, think of this too. Amazon goes out and has a deal and buys MGM. There was a lot of rumors about them buying out AMC Theaters. Amazon is just literally trying to build the biggest monopoly in the history of the world. You got a bunch of Congress people who supported them during the pandemic when they forced AMC down.
Mm-hmm.
Then the insider trading from Congress on AMC during that time period. But Amazon goes out, buys MGM Studios, grabs up a bunch of titles, and then is getting ready to destroy AMC and getting it for pennies on the dollar. Now they own streaming. Now they own movie production. Now they own theaters. Basically, I think Amazon was going to do what Adam Aron is now doing with Disney, and having Disney in our corner is like having the biggest freaking security bouncer in the world protect the front door of your club.
For sure. I always see your tweets, and I mean, they're always fantastic. It's like, we always talk about, the partnership with Disney that's growing and growing. And, some people like it, some people don't. But I mean, the fact that you have them in your corner with somebody who's got that, that kind of money and that much power and everything and that, I mean, it can't be a bad thing, right? And I mean, at some point, what was that, the Sunshine Pact or whatever it was, that where the production or the movie, was the production company can buy into the movie theaters? Was that correct? I mean, that just what, about 3 or 4 months ago? Was that?
And why do you think that even went through? That was Amazon lobbying to get that change so that they could own all three: the production, the streaming, and the theater. But now it's biting them in the butt because Adam Aron is friends with quite a few Disney executives, and Disney's getting ready to launch one of the biggest box offices in the past 20 years. 2023 has an insane amount of Marvel movies. And you also have Paramount, which it seems to me that Adam Aron has a very good relationship with Paramount too. So
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget about his Paramount connections with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
What? One question. I'm sorry. What happens in that case though? So say Disney comes in and they say, okay, we want to buy, say they want to buy $1 billion worth of stock, and obviously they can't route that into the dark pool. I wouldn't think without complete. But then again, they get away with pretty much everything they want. But what happens in that case where they come in and they buy a large portion of stock and are given a portion of AMC's company? What would happen in that case?
The way I see it, if Disney liked what was going on with AMC and they said, you know what, we should buy some stock and we're just going to really become part of this joint venture. They come in, they buy $1 billion of Ape, and they sit on it and let the price of Ape run like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And then they wait for the opportunity to convert later. And then at that time when Ape is $10, $15, $20, because Adam Aron just cleared off all the 17.5% toxic debt off the books of AMC, he can raise another $1 billion. So it's just there are so many paths forward that could be taken for the benefit of AMC and Ape price action that it's hard to even think about anything else that could go wrong other than the United States being invaded or a meteor hitting the Earth. Like,
no, I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, like, these space calls are fantastic. I mean, they just, I mean, everybody that is bullish, it is adds so much value to the community, and just the fact that we're allowed to support the company and we're allowed to bounce ideas off of one another. I mean, it's a fantastic community, and the fact that we're allowed to hold these calls and just kind of, I don't know, it's just great. I mean, I
call them shareholder meetings. That's what they are.
They pretty much are. I mean, everybody can kind of participate, right? I mean, it's fantastic. But I agree with you, Spence, on 1,000%. I mean, like, there's so many positive things that could happen. I mean, I think when people look and they go, oh, well, what could happen to this? I mean, you got to look at the other side. All the possibilities. And now that we're moving into the other revenue streams for AMC, I mean, this thing can be a rocket ship, right? I mean, it really can. You just have to be patient,
The credit card will bring in $1 billion. Like, I have no doubt of that. And then if they do it properly with a point system, co-branded with whatever bank, but teamed up with Disney, so you're getting Disney reward perks when you use your credit card to pay for your Disney Plus membership. And then you go to AMC and use it, and you get even more Stubs points and this and that. You're making a product that you're getting something back from consistently in the terms of a full entertainment process. And I also think maybe one thing that might happen is Disney's going to allow AMC Stubs to sell specific content on the AMC Stubs platform. Like, you'll be able to buy Kenobi on AMC Stubs instead of wanting to pay for a full Disney Plus membership. Okay. Because then they can fractionalize their content and make more sales to people who don't want to pay for a full year of membership.
I can see Adam Aron also diluting the Ape shares directly to Disney, Paramount, MGM. All of them. Why sell it to a hedge fund?
Well, if I'm Disney,
somebody that's going to get value out of it.
If I'm Disney and I've got a partnership with you, and you're saying, hey, I'll sell you some Ape and you'll be a shareholder, I would say, well, why don't you just sell it to us at $10 a share for a premium, so you get a lot of cash to pay down your toxic debt, which is going to make AMC stock go up. Yeah. So your dilution to debt payoff ratio is going to be really healthy.
Spence, the reason Disney is even with AMC like partnering is because they see value in us, in the apes, in the individual. power to the individual, man. I always say, more power to you guys, the individuals. And, I have to give credit to you guys, Tara, Spencer, all these guys who hold these spaces. We have to give you your flowers, guys. You have to, have them. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're completely right, man. Disney sees. So I think what Adam Aron was truly waiting for this past year was to see if apes really stuck around. And I think it blew him away by the 2022 annual when he realized nobody was leaving, and he probably gained even more investors than he had expected, which is why he's being pretty aggressive now. I do believe we're going to see some tweets coming up on how ape was distributed and FTDs from AMC and Adam Aron too. So, but Disney, hey, this company, this theater company that hosts our movies, has one of the biggest, most dependable, loyal investor consumer bases we've ever seen. This has never happened before to an entertainment company.
0.04 turnover rate. 0.04.
Back in 2018, nobody cared what theater they went to. They just went to the nicest or the nearest one. Now people literally go out of their way to go to AMC. And, again, like we talked about, what's the negatives of going on here in the future? I mean, what are shorts going to do? Are they going to short us more? That would be suicide. That'd be the dumbest thing they could possibly do. They are stuck right now in a circular motion with no liquidity. It's not going to last long. They're going to get crushed. And the markets are not in their favor either. Housing is not in their favor. Energy is not in their favor. Nothing is. So they're either going to have to ante up pretty soon, or they're going to have to go insolvent. This is why you see companies like, Melvin Capital was, according to Ken Griffin, Melvin Capital was doing just fine right before they crashed, and he loaned them $2 billion. And he said Gabe Plotkin's one of the best investors of a generation. And now he's sitting here trying to say that Citadel's doing okay. Like, bullshit. That liquidation of their fund might have been voluntary, but it was necessary. They don't do that unless they know there's a big problem and they need to circulate money. And then go on the back end half of that, they take out a bunch of loans to build liquidity, and he starts buying assets in the Florida Keys. So he's hiding money. He's moving money because he knows what's coming. Not to mention, on top of that, right as the UK Citadel branch is being liquidated, the Pope comes out in part of their new ratified constitution and says all assets need to be returned to the IRO, which is the Vatican Bank. It's more of a fund, but they just moved $5.5 billion back to the central part of the Vatican and the IRO because they know that the margin calls in the UK are going to be a disaster. So, I mean, people can be like, well, what's your source? What are you doing? It's common sense, man. You can see the rich people moving their money around, and it's very evident what's about to happen. So if the market crashes, they'll be able to cover and the stock squeezes. If the market doesn't crash, then AMC and the meme stocks continue to go up with the health of the market, and they're still screwed. There's no way for them to get out of this because the bottom of the market never came in. They needed a bottom a long time ago. So for them to continue their operation, they had to keep borrowing shares. They had to keep shorting shares, generating FTDs and messing with the options chain. But this community keeps getting smarter and more tactful. And we're using strategies now, all as individuals, that's putting a pinch on them. Just something simple like Bigham's telling everybody to get out of your ISDA bank. Go to a credit union. If anybody doesn't know, if you're with a bank like Bank of America, they're using the cash in your account on their books to show as margin so they can meet their collateral requirements on the stock that they're betting against that you own. So it's all super important. Rant complete.
So they're using your credit.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. So they're using your credit card debt to use that as a margin. Use that as
like
margin.
Your checking. Say you got $500 in your checking account with Bank of America. They put that on their books as a value for them, which helps them meet their margin requirements on the stocks they're shorting, like AMC, which you hold. They're using your money as collateral to meet their requirements so they can continue to short the stock you own.
That's unreal.
Get your money into a credit union and they can't do that.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. That makes sense.
Getting all kinds of alerts about fluffy paws or something. What's going on here?
Spence, I just wanted to say thanks for you putting that YouTube video out on how to computer share. That was not easy.
Yeah.
I'm about to attempt to computer share DRS all my ape shares, which I doubled down.
See, I'm doing 50%. I'm going to stay mobile between the two platforms, Fidelity and Computer Share. So say one goes down, I've got a redundant system. I know Fidelity doesn't really loan out your shares, but I will tell you, I think if every single 4 million ape did 20% of their AMC position to DRS, I'm pretty sure the entire float would end up getting logged at this point in time.
I'm across 5 different brokers because I felt so uncomfortable with who was doing what nonsense, and I feel like Public's not bad, but I'm still nervous about having money with them because who knows what they're actually doing back behind the closed doors.
Personally, any broker on your cell phone that's offering you free shares to sign up, to me, is extremely suspicious. That's just my personal opinion.
Computer share. I'm moving.
Well, here's the deal with Adam Aron. You know, right after Ape was distributed or not distributed, he came out and said some brokers did the right thing and some brokers didn't. All 4 of my brokers did the right thing. So he's telling you, what's that?
What made me the most nervous about the Public account and the Moo account was when it showed my dollar value. It didn't show 901 or whatever it was supposed to be that day when it split. It showed like $2.13 or some fractional value of each share that I had. So it made me really concerned that even though they are giving me some kind of shares, it is not the value that I have.
Well, here's the problem. There wasn't supposed to be any fractional shares of Ape to begin with. And we're obviously seeing that these brokers that are all pretty shady did give fractional shares. Fidelity gave me cash in lieu, which is the way it was supposed to go. And that's why I think these brokers couldn't wait to get about fractional shares, because then they hold the full share in their accounts in street name and they can go ahead and loan it out. I think that was part of the biggest problem. But this is what
I'm trying to say by fraction. I'm not. We're saying different things. I agree with you. That's effed up. I think that even though my account dollar value was showing the correct amount, that they were giving me a buy value at a percentage of what they actually gave me. And that's what made me feel really uncomfortable, because it should have just immediately showed what the value of my shares were.
Here's what Adam Aron tweeted on August 23rd. On the second day of the NYSE, 103.5 million new APES units and 77.5 million AMC shares traded. As expected, some brokers doing better than others in getting you your APES. All 4 of the brokers I use had it right, got their clients, including me, APES by close of business yesterday. He's basically tweeting to everybody that he knows these brokers did some shady shit. And he's just making it very evident to us that we see that. So we obviously saw what happened in the UK, Germany, the Netherlands. I mean, people, I still think there are a few people that are in my DMs saying they never got their ape.
I mean, it's not even that, man. You know, till this day, people can't buy ape in Europe. I mean, in Germany, in Netherlands, people cannot buy ape. So I don't know what the fuck's going on, but, you know, there you go.
I think one excuse I heard why I forgot what the bank was called, said that they're not going to sell ape is because they didn't get the proper description for ape from AMC, which is BS, because they would get that from the NYSE. It was very obvious that ape was a preferred dividend, And then in some cases in Germany, when it was distributed, it wasn't a preferred share. So, I mean, there's so much. We'll hear something about it going on in the future here. I know something's going to come out, especially with this DOJ investigation now starting to jump in on JP Morgan, Amazon, and like Muddy Waters and stuff like that. That's going to be a big deal.
So I'll tell you this, man. When Ape was distributed by my broker, it was at the penny. I'm not quite sure why, but I spoke to another guy who was in Germany, and basically he said that they want him to pay taxes on his unrealized gains because they gave the ape on a penny, and now it's what on like what $6. So basically, from the penny to $6, they want the taxes on that, man.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. Swing.
Hey, I just wanted to bring up the one person that was talking about public. I think everyone knows this now, but I feel like I have to say it every single time that someone mentions them. But by default, public loans out 100% of your shares. You actually have to go into your options to turn that off. Whereas a lot of brokers, you turn that on and you opt into share lending. And actually, I think Webull does the same thing, if I remember right, by default. But, so that is one area where they definitely get you, is that they, by default, your shares are being lent out on public. What other things they might be doing, who knows? But to Spence's point, you never see any reputable brokers offer you either large sums of money and or free, quote unquote, free shares to transfer your business or to start up or to tell your friends to join any type of brokerage. So if you're getting offered free stuff to join a brokerage, they are doing something that they probably shouldn't, and or you are the product, or they have to be making that money back in some form or fashion. Otherwise, they wouldn't stay in business very long. So, if you're getting paid to use a service in some sort of fashion, or to sign up, or to send your friends to it, I would stay away from it if your main concern is how much money you make in the long term. Signing up for it and taking those shares and immediately selling them for money, or doing whatever, that type of thing, go for it. But as far as where I would hold the bulk of my position at any point in time, I would never do that with any broker that offered me money to be there. I remember 2008 all too well, all the offers that, transfer your account to us and we'll give you $1,000 or $500. I at the time was living in Washington, and I remember WAMU's offers were absolutely insane. And then fast forward 18 months, WAMU no longer exists, and that becomes JP Morgan. So anyway, just food for thought. Don't trust any sort of system with the bulk of your position if you are being offered large sums of money. All the crypto things did the same thing, like the Voyagers and all of that. They were offering all sorts of money to sign up with them, and look where they are now. So.
It just got real quiet in here real quick. So you stopped talking and no one.
Sorry, I guess I dropped the mic. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead, Sam.
Did anybody see that nonsense with the Nasdaq pushing that rule through, where they kind of become a dark pool or whatever? That went through today.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you know what rule it was?
I could look it up. One of the other YouTubers that I watch, one of the young guys, he always says he releases it first. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But it was some obscure rule, and the SEC approved it right away because they were an exchange instead of being a broker, and then they were partnering with Citadel on it. So it definitely seemed fishy. I'll look it up real quick if I can find it.
Yeah, if you're able to, that would be awesome. Just so I know specifically. Maybe I did hear about that. I'm not 100% sure. I think Spence and Swing have their hands full momentarily, so otherwise they would probably chime in on it. I'm sure they know. They spend so much more time than me doing all of this research, especially on the. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm off Twitter. I'm done. Tired.
Yeah,
spent.
I'm
burnt.
leaving Twitter and YouTube to start a $1 billion real estate investment firm.
Late on it. I mean,
Yeah,
is this really the right timing to start a real estate firm? I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea. That's crazy to me.
Maybe like 6 months from now, the market is going to take a dump.
he only built his YouTube channel talking about stocks, and now he's basically saying, "Oh, I'm selling all my stocks and starting this." And if you're an accredited investor who, I'm guessing that less than 0.5% of his followers might be an accredited investor. So, as far as his audience actually helping with that project, probably not.
I found it. What they had done is they removed the requirement for liquidity providers to show who they were. So basically, they're partnering with Citadel and Virtu and probably a couple others to provide their liquidity on the NASDAQ to get more business. And they removed the little blurb where they had to provide that today, and the SEC already pushed it through. Tom Zazzolo was the one that did it on YouTube.
There definitely is real estate opportunities coming up. That's for sure. Like, I'm trying to buy right now, actually. So I know I'm going to take a little hit on interest that I'll refi later. But there are massive amounts of foreclosures hitting the Albuquerque market. So I'm watching houses that should be going for, $300,000-$400,000. I'm watching them just reduce in price, 25 here, 35 there. Or just houses that are up that aren't foreclosed are hitting massive price reductions right now. So the market is coming back down to a base on housing in certain areas for sure. What was the question that was asked earlier? Well, I had to go out and check my neighbor's garage door to make sure he closed it.
Sam was talking about some rule about NASDAQ and liquidity providers, but I don't know if it was just my connection, but I heard every other word of what he said. So I don't know if he lost signal or if that was my bad on my side. Did anyone else hear the full thing of what he said?
I don't know, but Tara, there's a lot of people on YouTube saying they love the sound of your voice. It's weird. It's getting a little weird.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm done talking. I'm not gonna talk anymore today. So Spence, Swing, you guys go. Just everyone leave.
The NASDAQ had removed
embarrassing.
The NASDAQ removed the requirement for liquidity providers to say who they are, and went into a partnership with Citadel and a couple of other ones, and they put the new rule in because it's a exchange and not a brokerage. They were able to push the rule through without very many people seeing it. So the SEC just rubber stamped it today.
Do you have that rule number?
I don't. I saw it on Tom Zazzolo's YouTube channel.
Okay.
And he actually pulled the thing up and highlighted the whole rule, but I didn't watch the whole thing again.
I haven't read about that yet.
It was maybe about an hour ago or so.
Well, we know they're cheating on their requirements anyways. I mean, if the DTCC isn't, or if FINRA isn't waiving margin requirements, then they're just lying about it. So eventually what's going to happen is these funds, these market makers are just going to become insolvent, and the bill's going to come due, and they're going to be like, "Oh, sorry, we messed up. Oh, didn't know," and then they're going to have to loan off their stocks to get cash. It's definitely coming. Like today's price action was right in line with FTD clearing on Ape, but I still am super excited to see the FTD data for the second half of August, even though it's 2 weeks behind, because I think people are going to be shocked. So, endless liquidity. You know, people were talking in a space call maybe a month ago about, oh, you guys aren't going to have Top Gun next quarter. Top Gun did just make another 3.5 million over the weekend, but I think what people are forgetting is that we have 4 or 5 new Marvel titles coming out. One of a return, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Avatar 2, John Wick 4. You have now talks of Indiana Jones 5, Blade. There's just an insane number of movies coming out, and there's another rumor saying that Top Gun 3 was already in production, which I don't blame them. I'd be producing Top Gun 3 as quick as possible, and I think if I was going to make Top Gun 3, I would make it where it's got flashbacks of Maverick's dad flying with Viper and Nam in the F4s, and that Maverick's dad didn't actually die, right? He was MIA. So Tom Cruise is flying around on a mission over in Vietnam or doing something against the Russians, say, and all of a sudden he's in trouble. Maverick's dad comes flying out of nowhere in an F4 and saves him. It'd be the best movie ever. So there's major blockbusters. Oh, Mission Impossible, 4 coming out? There's major blockbuster movies coming out for the rest of 2023 and Q4 and 2022 and all of 2023. So I don't know who would be bullish or bearish on this stock right now. This is absolutely crazy.
My kids are already talking about Sonic 3 and Sonic 4 and which Sonics are going to be in it and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're so excited about it. And like, I mean, my kids, because of their age and the pandemic and what have you, like, they've only seen a handful of movies, maybe 10 movies in movie theaters in their lives. And we go see that, and they're already talking about something that's happening in 2023 or 2024, talking about going and watching it. So the younger generation is fully engaged in going to see something in the movies, even though they have grown up more so than any of us in the streaming age. They've grown in the streaming age where they can, turn on TV and download a movie and watch it in seconds. They don't understand even. My kids hardly even understand the fact that they have iPads, but they don't get the fact that they can't download something unless they're hooked up to Wi-Fi, because we don't have don't have cell service with them. They're like, why doesn't this work? They're like, well, we're not in a place that has cell service or has Wi-Fi. Like, they think they should always be able to connect to the internet no matter where they are, which in theory we're going to be there probably with the different with Elon Musk, Starlink and things like that are going to come before we know it. But
yeah, the thing about Sonic and what we just saw with Dragon Ball Superhero literally doing way better in the box office than anybody anticipated, except for me, because I'm always right. They had the Dragon Ball characters on Fortnite. The kids ate that crap up, and it flooded the theaters with new Dragon Ball fans. Dragon Ball Superhero ended up clearing $32 million, which was one of the top grossing movies of the box office weekend, beating out everything else. But now you've got Sonic coming out with their new video game, Sonic Frontiers, and it's already getting like 5-star rave reviews from everybody saying it's amazing. So you're going to have this video game pop off, create a bunch of new Sonic fans. The next Sonic movie is going to come out. And if you don't see Sonic on Fortnite prior to the movie releasing, and guess who works for Fortnite? One of the board of directors at AMC Theaters is one of the top guys at the company that produces Fortnite. So the cross-promotional status is proof of how good. If they wouldn't have done Dragon Ball on Fortnite, the movie probably would have only made 15 million. So Adam Aron and company understand big time the cross-promotional status of what's going on here. So the next Sonic movie to come out should hit pretty hard with this Sonic Frontiers video game coming out prior to. It looks amazing. And guess where you're going to buy your Sonic video game?
And they did like other things that were very AMC related on Epic Games on Fortnite during like some of the height of this stuff. I mean, they even released an ape skin in a spacesuit. That also around the same time there was like a giant popcorn emoji or emote that you could do. So I mean, all of that was directly related to AMC, which was pretty cool to see. I freaking love Fortnite, by the way, but and to see that they were doing that simultaneously with being involved with all of this, and then knowing that board member, is obviously influencing what is being released on Epic Games. It's pretty cool.
It's really interesting when you think about what's going on. The movie industry was failing because of the Harvey Weinstein scandals and all the celebrities acting weird, and everybody just got sick of it. Everybody literally did. You could see it in the consumer base. So after pandemic, what do you do if you're a production company that needs people to go to movies? You take the attention off of Hollywood and you make them fall in love with the theater you're watching the content in. Therefore, you have more brand loyalty. I would say most of what's going on is because of the apes, but the advertising people, the people who work for the production companies and AMC and everything saw an opportunity with this to say, hey, let's try to consolidate all cinema to the AMC theater locations and make it brand recognizable instead of just going to whatever theater pops up, because they're going to double their revenues by doing that. So I think there's a little more in the background going on than I know the apes are like 98% responsible for what's going on with this, but they're definitely taking advantage of the brand recognition that's going with AMC. The production companies are.
And I mean, how can people question Adam Aron, man? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, man. If you have doubts in Adam Aron, you ought to have your head examined. Seriously. Because to me, the guy, he's, for us, he is with us. I mean, he said this, numerous times. That
if you were sitting on potentially billions of dollars worth of shares in your account, wouldn't you want to make AMC stock price go as high as you can? I mean, how many shares does he own? A couple million, whatever, maybe more. AMC goes to $30-$40 again and maintains. The dude's like half a billionaire. So it's crazy the amount of money he could make off this. If he started unloading shares out of nowhere, I would be extremely suspicious. But he's not. He's maintaining. So. Should I sing or?
Oh, Spence, I mean, that's a good point, and something that I think the Fudsters love to say is like, oh, this ape thing that means dilution and all that, and going to zero and all that bullshit. When he had that arrow in his quiver the entire time, he could have done the ape thing and announced it, but he didn't. There's a reason why he waited for when he did, and I think it completely has to do with he knew it was going to take a while for the box office to come back, and waiting until now, and we have Q4 ahead of us with with some of the biggest movies of the year, as well as Avatar, the sequel to Avatar, as well as replaying Avatar in the theaters, which I think is a brilliant move. I haven't personally watched Avatar in a really long time, so I look forward to going back and seeing it again. I remember being amazed by it, but that is a movie that I think going to see it in the theater versus no matter how big your TV is and your surround sound system, unless you're actually having a mansion with an in-home full-on movie theater inside your home, you're not going to get the same experience as watching Avatar in the theater, and that's the case with a lot of movies. Not all movies. There are B movies, the stuff that you might see on, I don't know, like the what is it, the Hallmark Channel and stuff like that. That really, it doesn't matter where you see that. But so many movies are so much better in theaters. To go along with Tara's comment, like, would you rather drink by yourself or just with your significant other at your house, or do you want to go to the bar and drink with other people? And same thing as far as them showing NFL games and UFC and those types of things. Like, I would probably become more of a UFC fan if I could go to the movies and watch it on a big screen with a bunch of people, and have the emotional impact of watching it with a bunch of people. The only time I've really gotten into it is when I've friends from work or whatever paid for a pay-per-view, and we watched it all together at somebody's house. That to me, okay, yeah, that was a good time. But I'm not gonna get a pay-per-view of a UFC fight by myself or just for me and my family. That doesn't make sense. But going to see it with a group of people, that's a whole nother level of experience. So that's where I think AMC definitely does have the advantage, and especially now that they have the brand recognition and the user base, the investor base, who are also the people going to see the movies and care about their investment. That's something that not many companies have that loyalty. There's very few. You have the Apples, the Teslas. There are very few companies that have that loyal user base and shareholder base combination, and it's a deadly combination.
And that's where he's going to raise his money. He doesn't need to dilute the stock. I don't think he's going to dilute the stock to pay off the debt until 2023. And even then, like you said, with the loyalty of the customer base, say 2 million apes or 1.5 million apes decide to go out and get the credit card, and now he's got a minimum of 2 to 3 million people. You're going to have 40, 50 million people buying retail popcorn, AMC popcorn off the shelves when they have redeemables in them. So you got two new revenue streams. Let's say conservatively, those two revenue streams bring in $1.5 billion in 2023, right? That's your annual total between the popcorn sales and the credit card revenues. He now has that revenue where he could pull $500 million a year to pay off toxic debt, which is going to reduce their cost on their loans of $100 to $200 million annually. So the new revenue streams will be able to pay the debt off. But if he's feeling froggy, say 2023, the box office is slapping, everything's good, revenues are flying in, everything's looking perfect for AMC, and the stock price of APE is $15. Oh, I'm going to go out, I'm going to sell 100 million shares at $15. He's got so many ways to raise money now that you would be an absolute fool to short this stock. It's just crazy that people, the only reason they're still in it is because they're stuck. I don't know really what's left for them to do except crash out the market because of it. It's absolutely crazy. Not to mention too, Swing, something really strange that I'm seeing is September 30th. It's funny because it's Q3 end, right? So that's AMC's Q3. That's the tax Q3. The Pope is requiring all assets back to the IRO by September 30th. But the funny thing is, here's some tinfoil hat. It's also Adam Aron's birthday. So I'm just saying, man, I told everybody September would be a good month, and October is probably going to be pretty insane for market on the downside. But too many coincidences lining up in a row seem to have laid out some type of ley line for us.
On the part that's also interesting, especially on the ape front, is the very few number of shares the last couple days shares of Ape out there, it's going to take them 10 days at this type of volume in order to cover that. What kind of price improvement would we see over 10 days given what we've seen thus far? And then you add in the fact that it has the equal ownership stake as AMC ticker does. You add in all of these factors. It's like, why not? Why would you not buy it? And, there's something interesting technical wise that I've noticed, well, it hasn't been trading that long. If you use EMAs rather than MAs, we're flirting with the at least what's shown on my charts as the 200 MA. And once we break that, that's where institutional interest sometimes hides, is that they're able to buy, once something at least breaks and retest the 200 EMA, they're able to go in on something. Whereas they might not be willing to take a position until it clears that. And my young chimp here is quite excited about that. He's bullish. So take that for what it's worth. It's kind of a some people call him the young Kramer. So when he gets excited, take your own financial advice on that. But he's excited.
Well, what's funny about that swing is not even maybe 2 weeks ago, I tweeted, it looks like Ape wants to go retest that $7 range. And I tweeted it, and one of the, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but one of the market outlets came out and was like, oh, that didn't age well, because 5 minutes later, Ape was down a little bit. Well, guess what? We hit what did we hit today? What was our 612, 615 in the matter of a 4-day period after I tweeted that? Not even that. So yeah, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days ago, business days, I tweeted that. So what you're saying about everything to me looks absolutely perfect. It looks like we're getting ready to go retest that $7 range, which is where they started failing. You can see in the chart these red candles that just pop down consistently and perfectly, dragging us down to that 440. That was nothing but shorting or failure. So I think before year end, Ape's going to be well back over $7 a share, if not back up to 10, where it should be sitting with AMC anyways. So that's why I'm a little more bullish on buying Ape. Can you imagine when we were told, getting told by people, very influential, popular people, to sell Ape and buy AMC back when it was at its lowest. And now we're sitting up over 30%. So I'm glad I bought the Ape dip and didn't listen to them.
Yeah, I definitely am not listening to anybody at this point. It's pretty easy to see what we have, and how many people are freaking out about it is enough proof to me that I'm willing to risk just hanging on. I don't really see a reason other than clickbaity stuff going on for these guys to even come out and sort of forcefully tell people, you need to sell Ape, you need to get out. It was really bizarre, unless someone's actually paying them to say those things or something along those lines. I don't know. And then claiming it was a question or phrasing it as a question when clearly no, based on the commentary that followed, no, it wasn't a question. It was very adamantly expressed that that's the smart thing to do. You're an idiot if you don't, and all of these other things. So, claiming that you were simply asking a question and then afterward going, further and saying, yeah, this is the right way. And when other people are following in their footsteps and then commenting that is just proof. I just want to say I appreciate this space today. It's been very invaluable. It's been amazing. So I appreciate all of you guys again for coming up, contributing, Spence and Swing for helping with co-hosting while I'm, in between the space and doing other things as well. I know we all have trades that we're trying to do and stuff like that. So it's awesome, having that support here in these spaces, especially when there's a few hundred people, and it's a little bit overwhelming sometimes. So, and also just to remind everybody listening, if you do want to come up and talk, it's an open discussion. Anyone's allowed to come up, contribute, ask questions. I promise you're not going to be booed out of here or, treated poorly if you come up here and express yourself. So anybody's welcome.
Tara, you know what I think should start happening?
What's that?
I think Mark should start preparing my keg of Laguntis IPA.
I agree.
Go over that bet again. I forget what the actual terms of the bet were.
So we should have laid out better time, like as far as length of the bet. But I told him, he said that the stock price is going to dump and Adam Aron's going to dilute the crap out of it. And I said, okay, well, if the stock price goes up and Adam Aron doesn't dilute till the end of the year or doesn't dilute until 2023, then you owe me a keg of beer and he has to deliver it. If Adam Aron dilutes before 2023 and the stock price dumps lower than where we are, say it goes down to like $2, then I have to buy a keg of beer from New Mexico and drive it to him. But the way it's looking right now, I'm just saying.
But that beer is going to taste good.
If it's all shaken up when it gets here, I'm going to make him go back and get a good one. But it's a good gentleman's bet to have. So
yeah, my money's on you, Spence. Definitely.
I mean, he was right about what happened. Well, for the most part, he was right about what happened with Bed Bath & Beyond, in my opinion. So, he's got props on everything going on there, even though I think there's more behind the scenes we don't know about. But
I was gonna say that I don't think we can call that yet. I think there's a lot being put in from the public eye, I guess you could say.
One thing I think is interesting about that, if you look at the prospectus of where BBBY was planning on selling the shares, it is currently trading well above that average range that they put in the prospectus. So, I find that interesting. That's also good for them in that they're going to get a higher price than what they put out there. It seems like, because they haven't at least announced closing of that round. And then the question comes to my mind: have they even sold any yet? Or is the price going to continue to appreciate and they're going to sell later? Like I don't know, and really, I guess no one knows other than the company and whoever they're doing the trades with. But because until they close that round, we'll get to see what they sold it at and how many shares at what price over what time period and that type of stuff. But it's interesting to me that we haven't seen a filing saying that's closed and the price is already trading well above because I think they showed like an average of like 823 or 831 or something to that effect, where they planned on selling the shares. So
it's because I bought those towels, bro. I went to Bed Bath & Beyond in Santa Fe and bought 4 black towels for $3.99 each.
Was air conditioning on?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Oh, it was a beautiful store. It was clean. The employees were all driving and hanging out and talking. And somebody brought up a conspiracy theory.
That FUD about them turning off the AC wasn't true. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, you don't turn off the AC in New Mexico, man. Everybody would die. But somebody had a conspiracy theory I saw about, the CFO had committed suicide, which is very tragic. They had talked about how in the other guys, the chief worked at Bed Bath & Beyond. And there was something about somebody, I got to rewatch the movie, but somebody had jumped off the roof in that movie too. Not the guys aiming for the bush, not Sam Jackson and The Rock. But I love it when they're in the Bed Bath & Beyond and they're arguing and Michael Keaton's just whispering at everybody. He's like, hey, knock it off in here. Like he's yelling, but he's whisper yelling. It cracks me up. Nerd moment. Sorry. How about those Lakers? CPI?
Yeah, I'm interested in how that's going to turn out. I'm predicting lower than expectations, mainly due to the currency tailwinds that we have. Like, you have to remember the dollar is appreciated. I know that everyone said, oh, Jay Powell prints money, which he doesn't do, and dollar going to zero and all of that stuff. But the dollar has appreciated 25-30% against the other baskets of stocks when you look at the DXY. And so when you break that down and you start looking at the countries that we import from, Europe, the euro is down 20% against the US dollar. That means anything that we're importing from Europe is 20% cheaper, relatively speaking, than what it was at the beginning of the year. And then you go to Japan, 40% compared to a year ago. China is down, I think, 18% compared to a year ago. So all of these countries that we tend to trade with and we buy goods from, our currency is appreciated against their currencies. And so that means when these products finally get here, it's actually going to be, they're exporting their deflation essentially to us. And so whether it's this print or next month, pretty soon we should start seeing the effects of the currencies coming back to show actual deflation, where Jay Powell's transitory thing is indeed correct. It took a long time, but the fact that the dollar has appreciated so much against the entire world, basically, I don't know if there's maybe actually of all things, I think the Russian ruble might be the only thing that might have appreciated, ironically, against the dollar. Pretty much every other currency, even the British pound, is trading down, a lot compared to normally that trades at like $1.30, and it's down to like $1.16 right now. So anyway,
swing man, I think we're literally witnessing the reset. I mean, it depends on how you look at it, but this is it, man, where all the currency are collapsing, and basically the dollar is dominating the world and making everyone poor. And eventually they're going to come for $1. And then that's when we will end up with these ECBs. But that's just how I look at it.
Well, I mean, in some long term, I think, yes, all fiat is down to go to zero, but you have to, I subscribe to dollar milkshakes theory, which basically it all in means that the reserve currency of most of the world is going to actually be the one that survives out of all of them. Yes, other currencies will go down, but then what is everyone's option going to be? They're going to go to that one currency, and that's going to buoy up it. But this happens cyclically every single time. If you look at macro things, every time the euro dips, the dollar goes up. It creates a business cycle. So you have to pay attention to what these currencies are doing and what that knock-on effects are for the entire world. It is, we're all interconnected, and when currencies start, I mean, we're complaining about our inflation. Like, think about being in Japan, where your currency is literally 40% less powerful than it was a year ago. 40%. That's just insane to think about. And they've had, as bad as our quote unquote inflation is, they've had 40% higher inflation than we have. They may not be saying that, and mind you, for Japan, in some ways it might be a good thing, because they've actually been facing deflation. They've had so much quantitative easing for decades now. I don't know what round of quantitative easing they're on. They actually are they've had a deflationary problem where prices can't go up. They can't get people to invest in anything because they know it's going to be cheaper tomorrow than it is today. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I hear the thoughts of the fourth turning and the Great Reset and all that, but to me, I don't subscribe to the fact that it's now is the time, because I think there's too many players that are too entrenched in the current system that that now is the time that they're gonna flip that switch. Will they in the future? Quite possibly, but I don't think that they're ready. But that's my theory on it. You know, to each their own on that. And you know, in the longest time frame, longest horizon, yes, fiat always eventually goes to zero. However, as long as the dollar is the reserve currency and there's no, I mean, the euro was built to be a competitor in some ways of the US dollar, and it isn't able to touch the power of the dollar. There's a whole, you know, euro dollar system because the European banks even lend in dollars, and that's actually what partially creates the system. When you're lending in dollars, when you take a loan out in dollars, that means that you're basically short a dollar because you borrowed a dollar and you have to pay it back. And then when you have liquidity issues, like we're seeing throughout the world right now, everyone owes those dollars, so they have to get their hands on dollars to pay them back. And that's what creates the strength of the dollar, because the world borrows in dollars. The entire world does. There's a petrodollar, you know, everything, all the different markets, is based off the dollar. So that's where the dollar strength actually comes from, because people are borrowing in dollars. Then that means that they have to pay back those dollars. And because they owe all of those trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, they have to get their hands on them somehow. And when they can't, because of quantitative easing and quantitative tightening cycles and all of these things, that's what creates the strength. And that's why ultimately the dollar reigns supreme amongst the world's currencies, and why ultimately we get to play, you know, in some ways currency wars with all of these other countries. And eventually we get to, you know, when things start getting too tight, we end up importing their deflation because their currencies are weaker than our currency, and so things get relatively cheaper for us over time, because of people have to debase their currencies more than we have to debase ours. Looks like we lost Spence there. I just invited you back up, Spence. So if that doesn't work, it looks like maybe it's working.
Yeah, somebody called my phone and I got dropped.
Yeah, I don't think I have the power to co-host you though, so I think that's Tara. If she can hear.
Fine. I don't need that title. I don't need that stress on me. I'll just be a speaker.
Actually, I was just noticing this thread all about Spence. I love seeing how Spence has the same haters who have been my haters from like day one for no apparent reason at all whatsoever. It's just funny to watch them displace their anger toward me, because most of them are blocked and can't even reach me, onto Spence, while Spence is sitting here minding his own business, talking about the stock, talking about great things that are coming. Like, it's just so wild to me. Like, these same people claim that they're here for the same reasons we are, but yeah, all they do is sit there and talk about other people. I don't know. It sort of makes me laugh, and I'm sorry, Spence, but yeah, you've taken the brunt of a lot of the negativity.
Let's be totally honest. Sal Meme Lord's memes suck ass anyways. Like, he's not a meme lord. He makes substandard memes that are maybe slightly funny, and they're not even original.
Self-proclaimed meme lord. If I was an actual meme lord, I would never have to call myself a meme lord. Really quick, I was going to tell you, Spence, just hopefully to make you feel better, it reminded me of this quote that intelligent minds talk about ideas, average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people. So hopefully those people aren't getting to you. I don't think they really do, but I just want to know, like, they're clearly extremely jealous to see you sitting where you're at. And that's why I quickly put you back in the co-host seat. Because, I mean, honestly, that's been their complaint from day one, is that I have a clique or I don't let them talk. And then yet they completely talk crap about me. Like, why would I give you a spot on a space like this if you're going to treat people so poorly behind the scenes? Then no. Like, you need to earn it. And Spence definitely has. He's proven over and over that he's here for AMC, HYMC, GME, BBBY. Like, I mean, come on, guys, get a life, honestly.
Yeah, it's just pathetic. If you know, the only thing that they have is trying to make a meme out of me and Mark. I will say it right now. Mark donated $10,000 to St. Jude's on the second of a request from me on the Adam Aron competition we did between, you know, Mark and Adam Aron, when they were talking about who's bald and who's not. And we turned something that was, you know, a little dispute on Twitter into an amazing cause and ended up raising, I think, $13,500 total between all of Mark's donations and the followers that we have between us. So, you know, when Sal Meemler comes out of left field today with nothing to do and tries to make, I'll just post it to the top, puts me in some Pampers hanging on Mark. I don't give a shit. I made $4,000 today. Sal Meemler showed up maybe 3 or 4 months ago out of nowhere. Wasn't here in January, because if he was, he would have known that meme's not original, because we already have one with me, you, and Mark where I'm already the baby. So, you know, I don't know. It just seems like a waste of time to me.
He was trying to gain popularity doing other meme stuff prior to the AMC stuff, and then just latched on to AMC because of the popularity there. So, and then he tried. The thing is that I'll always say about people in general, and this applies to everything, I think, in life, not even just strictly Twitter or AMC or anything that specific. But if you're trying to grow and build on the premise of hate, you're definitely going to stunt yourself. And I think that's what we've seen sort of play out. And I've tried to explain this to people who have, you know, been spiteful or hateful toward me. And I've, you know, tried to just tell them, like, this isn't going to win. Like, you aren't going to win in the end. And it's not that I'm better or I think I'm better. It's just that growing and trying to be anything and build anything out of, you know, this hateful premise is just never going to take you anywhere that you're trying to get to. I mean, unless that's their goal, is to just sort of sit stagnant in their own, you know, gross, disgusting, stagnant water, then yeah, have at it. But anyone who's trying to gain any sort of a following or, you know, have any, you know, leg to stand on, I recommend positive vibes, positivity. It'll definitely take you further. I, you know, whenever I've succumbed to some of the negative crap, I know that most of the people who support me, appreciate me, love that I'm doing these spaces and so on and so forth have stepped up and said, this isn't what we want to see from you. We like when you're doing X, Y, and Z. And that's what I've sort of stuck to. I mean, and not that I'm, you know, just trying to live for other people, but at the same time, you kind of have to pay attention to sentiment, and people don't want to just hear about negativity. Most people have, you know, crap going on in their real lives with their jobs or their horrible boss or, you know, maybe family issues there, and they don't want to come onto a space and hear about negative BS or come onto Twitter and see their favorite person that they love to follow and laugh at their memes just hating on people. Like, that's just not gonna win brownie points in my honest opinion.
He's not getting any engagement, so he comes at me because, you know, I don't have the most followers, but the ones I do engage consistently all the time. So they know there's traffic there. So when their engagement's light and their memes have been lacking, and they have been lacking, don't get it twisted. Him coming at me today is like Machine Gun Kelly challenging Eminem to a rap battle, and we all know how that ended. So
yeah, there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. You know, I think it's over 100 years old now. And there's a quote: "You catch more flies with honey versus gall." And that quote is true today as it was when that book was written. And for anyone that hasn't read that classic, I highly recommend it, especially if you have anything in sales or have anything to do with convincing anybody of a different position than your own, because that's really what that book is about. It's about how to influence people. What is influence? Trying to take people that might have a different viewpoint than you and convince them that maybe your viewpoint might be the better way to go. That is the the bedrock of sales. I know people hate salespeople, but that's ultimately the job of the salesperson to do. Not saying that that's what's going on here, but when it comes to influence, that's what you're doing. You're influencing people to think a different way than maybe they were before they talked to you. And that might be to support something that they may not otherwise support, or it might be to follow them because they have similar viewpoints as your own and that type of thing. So anyway,
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm done shilling that title.
Can you just send me a DM of the name of it, because that reminds me so much of sort of what happened with Mark, because I remember when I first met Mark he was running a space of his own because Citadel had come back to Twitter and done these weird rash of tweets calling us conspiracy theorists after a 9-month, hiatus where Citadel didn't say a word because of, since the buy button being swiped and all of that. They came back to Twitter when we were effectively able to trend the hashtag Citadel scandal, which was an idea of mine that came right from a space like this. And it went absolutely crazy. Everyone everywhere was hashtagging Citadel scandal. I think it even bled over into the crypto community and GME, obviously, and further. So no one wants to be involved in a scandal. Citadel came back to Twitter, which then I was able to find Mark on a space, and there were around 1,000 people in there. And after talking to him behind the scenes, he opened up his eyes a little bit to some of the things that I pointed out and explained to him about AMC. And that's why so many people, when they heard, oh, wait, Mark Cahotis, the infamous short seller, is long on AMC, wait, what? And so all of these other short sellers sort of started to come around and pay attention and say, well, if these ideas happen that Mark is, conveying and bringing forth and bringing to the table, then I might actually, get out of my short position and go long if that's the case. So, I mean, I think you're 100% right. You do. You win more brownie points by just, I don't know, explaining things clearly, concisely, and kindly. You don't have to be a prick. It really just is ineffective.
Here's what's super sus, though, is we just had an amazing day. Right? Everything went good. Most of what I said has come to pass. So, people who were following me were buying the ape dip. We protected them from Meet Kevin and Core's silly idea. So now we're positive. So Sal Meme Lord's going to come out and try to come after me today for what? You know what? I was going to give him...
to sway sentiment, and that's it. Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, oh my gosh, I can't have people liking Spence because I need them liking me. No, that's not how it works. And the sooner that people realize that, the better. People can like Spence and Sal. Weird, right? It's this crazy world where we're not in high school anymore, and people can like multiple people. Wild.
I've never said a bad word to him whatsoever. So it's just clout chasing is all it is. I was actually going to send him an AMC gift card, but I've noticed actually, just thinking recently, I've never seen him post a picture of even going to an AMC theater. So I guess he doesn't need it. I'll give it to people who actually go to AMC theaters and actually own the stock.
Yeah, I recommend doing that, to be honest. Because that's the thing is so many people have just kind of hopped on the bandwagon out of, the sheer popularity that was built on AMC. And I know a lot of people who did that have actually projected that onto me and claimed that that's the case for me. Fortunately, I have screenshots and screen recordings and a record paper trail that goes all the way back to January 26th on AMC when I bought my very first shares. So, yeah, they really they really just don't have a leg to stand on as far as that goes. But and honestly, I never expected things to get to where they got to in regard to the stock. But I also didn't expect them to take away the buy button. You know, I thought this was going to be an in and out deal almost 2 years ago, and here we are. So no, you know, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to quit talking about it as much as some of these people think by kicking me out of here or getting me off Twitter is going to help them out in some way, shape, or form. The only people who I can imagine that would help would be anyone short this thing. And that's about it. So it makes me question their true intentions as well, Spence.
Yeah. I posted the book up in the nest there for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Swing. Appreciate it.
I will read that tonight, actually.
It'll take you longer than a night. It's a pretty beastie book, but I think it shows there. I think that it's 8 hours on or something like that if you listen to it full on one speed on Audible. So it's pretty, but it's definitely good and worth. It's a classic. You know, everybody should read that if you're in the business of trying to influence someone. Which, you know, that was the thing about the book that is interesting, is it basically lays the groundwork for saying, I don't care what you do, you're in the business of convincing people, whether you're a priest and your job is to convince someone, you know, that your religion's the right way, or, you know, you're a clerk working in a store and you're trying to help someone make the best decision about, you know, whether they buy butter, lettuce, or spinach for some salad that they're making, or whatever the case might be. It doesn't matter what you do. Your job is to help people and convince people that your vision is the right way of things. So anyway,
I stand at the grocery store and I literally all day, all I do, and I'm telling my secret now. While I'm on space calls, I'm at the grocery store convincing people that bread and butter pickle chips are disgusting and you should get dill only.
I don't know. I'm long all types of pickles personally.
I know. I'm one of those weird people that like sweet pickles, and I think I'm the only person on the planet that does. I know. I don't know. Like I like sweet relish. I don't know. It's weird.
I'm bullish on all pickles because they're all cucumbers, and you know, Cucumber Capital is one of my favorites. Follows. So
Tara, if you don't start a pickling brand called Cucumber Capital and sell that shit, it'll be the biggest missed opportunity of your life. Find some grandma with a bomb diggity like spicy pickle recipe and put Cucumber Capital spicy pickles on the jar. With a picture of you like eating one sensually. That's like $1 million idea. She left us again.
It's all right, Spence. I'm with you. Long on pickles, long on cucumbers.
We'll just start it ourselves and jack her profile picture.
Twitter doesn't like your idea, Spence, of me starting my own pickle business. Anyway, I see S has.
Well, there actually is a Cucumber Capital.
Yeah, so I got threatened in my DMs from this creep that was coming after you, Spence, and trying to get you like banned from Twitter. That he was going to get me banned for saying that I was the CEO of Cucumber Capital, because apparently he called Cucumber Capital and they didn't know who I was. So I was misleading people. I didn't even know Cucumber Capital was a real thing. So, yeah, I took it off my profile because I definitely don't want to mislead people. But if you don't know the joke there, then we'll just keep it as an inside joke, I guess. But, no pun intended. S, I think you're.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was an inside joke the whole time.
Oh my God. S, go for it. What's up? Your hand's up.
Hey guys. Hey, just one question. So on the cost to borrow and things like that, in terms of what it costs them to maintain this short position, I mean, I always hear the number 200 million. I mean, is that accurate, or do we know, or do we have a guesstimate of what it's costing them to maintain these shorts? I mean, so basically, when they're borrowing these shares, cost to borrow, and they print these synthetic counterfeit shares on a daily basis, and you know the cost to borrow is 28% or something like that. Is that just for that block of shares, or is that the existing short they have, or is that just that 100,000 shares at 28%? Is that just that particular block of shares? I guess.
From my understanding, your lending agreement will depend on who you are and how many shares you're borrowing, and all of those types of things. So if you're one of the large, firms, you might have a deal to borrow shares from JP Morgan at a lower rate than anybody else because you do most of your business with them. And also anything printed on Ortex, that's more of a retail facing number than what large institutions might be borrowing at. So all of that is with a grain of salt because every single agreement is individual. That being said, a lot of lending agreements are fluctuating in that your rate to borrow is whatever it will fluctuate along with the demand. So, just because you borrow it when it's cheap doesn't mean that 5 days later, if it gets to be really expensive, you might have to pay a higher rate than when you first borrowed those shares.
I got you. Thank you. I do have one other thing. Does anyone else find it just fascinating that our government does these reverse repos? This thing just absolutely it amazes me that they allow that they loan these banks this money overnight to balance their books. It's unreal to me. The amount of fuckery in this thing is just baffling to me. I just never knew that they loaned them $2.2 trillion. And I think who was it this morning? Somebody posted on Twitter, and I'm trying to think who it was now, but they posted that it was like 66 days that we've been over $2.2 trillion in reverse repos. That number is just, it's mind boggling, to tell you the truth.
Well, the reverse repo is actually the other way around. They're taking cash from the banks and giving them securities overnight, and then they're paying them the like whatever percentage is agreed to per that reverse repo agreement. So they're taking cash from these banks, and the purpose of it, from my macro understanding of it, is to basically keep the front end of the yield curve up, because otherwise there'd be so much demand for short-term securities that, maybe not now, but initially when they launched the program, we would have had negative rates at the front of the yield curve, which to all extents and purposes kind of breaks the system. You can't have to pay money to borrow money. That doesn't, you should always have to pay money to borrow money versus actually get paid to borrow money.
Explain that again. Tell me that again, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So what a reverse repo is if you're JP Morgan, you have $1 billion and you have nothing that you want to do with it. That $1 billion is actually a liability on your balance sheet because you're a bank. You owe that money to the people that have it. So the only way to offset that is to buy an asset with it. And so they're taking that cash and getting an overnight, borrowing the security from the Federal Reserve, which are treasuries of some type. And with that, they're getting paid whatever the interest rate that's being offered with those overnight securities.
Okay.
The reason why they're doing that is to buoy up the front end of the yield curve, because if they didn't do that, would have faced negative rates. And also even right now, the front end of the yield curve would not be where it is right now. It'd be much, much, much lower because there's so much demand for that short-term paper, and there's not enough issuance of that paper. There's actually collateral shortage. There's not enough short-term securities to go around, partially because they've been over-shorted.
Okay.
There's so much shorting of these securities going on that there aren't enough to go around. So with that, and that's why if you look at failure to deliver data, the failure to deliver on U.S. securities is absolutely insane. I haven't looked at this statistic in a while, but I remember in April and May, the average daily failure volume on treasuries was higher than the actual trade volume per day on average. So more trades were failing per day than there actually were trades to begin with.
So that's market wide, not just on not just on equities, and it's market wide.
Well,
And
those are U.S. Those are that what I was talking about is specifically on U.S. Treasuries, on the Treasury bill market, on which could be anything from the 1 week to the 20-year, whatever Treasury, because they don't really break that down on the Fed or Fred website. So it's kind of hard to know what end, but you can kind of speculate based off the fact that the Fed is currently paying more right now for that overnight repo than the 4-week bill, than what you would get in the market. So they're actually basically paying out, saying, here, don't buy this 4-week Treasury bill from the market. Instead, do the overnight repo, and we'll pay you actually more money to do that than what the rate is, because they're actually trying to get the rates up, because they know that they have to bring them back down. I think is my macro speculation of what this all is. They're trying to get these banks some higher yields right now before they're going to have to revert and bring the yields right back down, and they know that's going to happen. It's scary to them that we were at near zero bound for so long. They have to get the rates up before they can lower them again, because you can't push rates negative. Like, that's when things really break.
Do you guys see like this market rallying because of the fact, the anticipation that they think inflation's going to cool off? Is that the reasoning for the market rally the past 4 or 5 days, you think? Or do you think it's more so to maintain their liquidity, to maintain their short positions, or to maintain liquidity, to maintain their short positions on stocks such as AMC, I guess?
I personally think, with the amount of FTDs that were generated in just APE alone, I think institutions had to start covering just a little bit. They had to get some stuff off their books for this fiscal year coming up in October, the fiscal year change. September 30th is a big, for some reason, Q3 September 30th is a big problem for all these financial institutions. Like I said, the Pope told everybody to pull the $5.5 billion and all the assets back to the IRO by then. Something's going to happen in October, and a lot of people are prepping for it. Ken Griffin's getting loans, liquidating funds. The Pope's pulling all the money back in. There's something coming for sure. But people are trying to put as much cash on their books as they can for some reason. But you mentioned that earlier, Spence, on that deal with him buying all this real estate. Is that because, is that possibly because they're going under, and they can't seize their assets in Florida? Is that
Yeah, Florida has special asset protection laws. So him buying $100 million house, that's such. What's he gonna do with $100 million house moving from Chicago to Florida? What's the point in that?
He just bought a $75 million house not too long ago, didn't he?
Yeah, he's dumping cash into the markets where he can, where it's going to be protected. So when this all blows up in his face and his investors leave him, he's going to have that cash and assets sitting around. He'll be able to sell and get back in the game later. This is more than likely what I'm predicting. Ken Griffin already installed the withdrawal gates almost 6 months ago, where he said you could only withdraw like 6.5% each quarter.
Exactly.
And his investors are definitely panicking, right? There's global millionaires that are worried right now because they saw Melvin Capital go under, which we still haven't seen the end of that yet.
Yeah.
Bill Wang's still in jail rolling on everybody, and the DOJ is calling out Amazon, JP Morgan, and Microsoft. Microsoft, Bill Gates, has a 500 million or more now short position on Tesla.
Exactly.
So it's all coming. I mean, the writing's on the wall for sure.
Well, do you guys foresee him being removed as market maker and then putting in more of a neutral party, I guess, to maybe facilitate some trades that actually make sense, I guess, instead of rerouting everything off market?
If the DOJ comes in and links anything to Citadel, I think they're done, personally.
How can they not? I mean, at this point, I mean, the data's there. I mean, we see that 80% of the volume's rerouted off market, and he's the primary market maker on AMC. So, I mean, how can they not at this point, I guess?
Yeah, the problem is he's so intertwined with everything. Citadel Securities has their hands in almost everything, and that's
that's his security blanket. Is he's so intertwined that if Citadel does go under, it's detrimental to the market structure. So we'll see what happens. If anything, somebody would have to assume all the responsibilities that Citadel currently has with market making and the structures of the market. But the way he's behaving and his sudden silence where he's not on TV gloating about certain things and this and that, like even buying that copy of the Constitution is now a protected asset. You know, what did he pay? $36 million for that?
Yeah.
He's dumping millions of dollars of his investors' money into assets that he can turn around and sell later on. It's just wild, man.
Well, so I was on a call the other day and somebody said, you know, a lot of this money he's borrowed is from people you really or not borrowed, but invested, if you can call it investing, is from people that are undesirable like himself, but even worse, you know, I mean, and so what's going to happen when he loses all their money? Because he wasn't flying to these countries like close to Ukraine and everything else. He was taking money from, you know, probably from Russian mobsters and everything else. And so what happens in the case when all that money disappears? It's not going to be good for him. I wouldn't.
Here's the funny thing is they sold that 2.1 billion stake in whatever asset branch they had in Citadel. Then he loaned Melvin 2.5 billion. Melvin pretty much lost that when they went long on Facebook, which I think they did on purpose. I think Citadel said, go long on Facebook. We're going to short it.
Huh.
Facebook took an absolute dump. Then Citadel came back and asked Melvin for 500 million back. Not even 2-3 months later, now he's taken out loans from JP Morgan, Citi, some other institution, and then just took out another $600 million and then starts buying assets in Florida. He took out loans to put money into assets to buy so they're protected in case he goes bankrupt. And the simple fact that he installed withdrawal gates on Citadel meant they were in trouble. This is what he did back in 2008. The first thing he did was set up withdrawal gates. So he knows what's coming too. I still think there's a flash crash coming in the overall market, personally.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, it baffles me that it's gone up like, you know, 1,500 points in 4 days. I mean, unless they're expecting that inflation number to be, you know, better than expected or whatever. And maybe they're not going to raise rates as aggressively as the way I see it. But maybe that's the case. Or like you said, maybe they'll start cutting rates earlier. But yeah, there's something definitely coming because the market does not, it goes up on pretty much bad news 24/7 now, it seems. So it's just, it's a crazy time, but I mean, it's you know, I think we're on the right play. I mean, because, you know, we should, you know, we always said that AMC had negative beta, you know, and, you know, but you also talked about it going up with the market. But I think at the same time, I mean, you know, we saw what can happen as well when the market goes down. AMC can go up tremendously as well. So should be interesting times, that's for sure.
Is anyone talking, or is my phone broken?
I had to go to the potty.
I was just responding. I was just doing a little digging into some things, but just responding to a tweet as well. One that says, I genuinely believe a massive amount of you are dumb, lazy, and extremely impressionable. That being said, I still want the best for you. I want all of you to be your best you, even if that means that I have to play the role of a villain to accomplish that. It sounds like you would think that is coming from Kevin, Matt Cords, or I don't know if Swing can hear me, or Gasparino himself, but that's Sal. So I just thought that was an interesting statement. I always think it's weird too when someone lumps us as a group, but they're not in that group. So it kind of is telling in itself. I just responded and said, if we're dumb money, why is smart money so concerned with what we're doing? I genuinely believe a massive amount of us are smart enough to see through the attempts to sway the masses. So Yeah, those kinds of statements, blanket statements, just really bother me. And who just comes out and calls a group of people dumb? You basically sound like the media, you sound like the haters, and it's just not a good look.
Back in the 60s, they did it a lot. It was extremely racist too when they did it. So it's just
absolutely
another tactic of segregation to try to make a group of people feel less than what they're actually worth. It's just nothing but a psyop. It's the stupidest comment that, oh, you group of people. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, and it sounds so much like the same things Gasparino's been saying all along. You know what I mean? And like he literally doesn't talk about anything else and talks about AMC constantly. It's like, oh my goodness, are you serious? It's extremely annoying. Oh, I see my buddy Cassandra up here. What's up?
Yeah, you guys are talking about, or speculating that these guys are positioning for a big market sell-off. I was just in another space, and a guy that's really, really smart, he's a very intelligent investor, macro guy, was saying that his buddy works for the government or something like that, and he's an analyst for the government, and they're saying, based on their calculations and their models, that there's about a 35% chance that China could really take Taiwan inside the next, I guess, next year. I don't want to say a year because I don't think he specified the timeline, but we'll just say a year. So I mean that would just shift markets. I can't even imagine what that would do to markets. It'd be unreal. It'd be colossal.
Let me pin my tweet that I made earlier today that talks about exactly what you just said, because I believe that would happen too. There'll either be Russia, China, or some sort of natural disaster. All right, just pinned it to the top. I think I pinned it to the top. But I agree. I think that's why you see Nancy Pelosi and all them playing weird games with these chip companies like NVIDIA getting in and then getting out. And not to say that these China IPOs that have been pumping recently up to 28,000%, there is another couple IPOs coming out from China that are actually chip producers. But I've been watching the news and I've been watching everything going on, and the China-Taiwan news has been really lacking lately, which in my personal opinion, when you don't hear news about it, it means there's probably something going on. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just want to look at the events that are taking place, they're passing out all this money for chip manufacturers in the United States. Obvious that's the smart thing to do. But I personally, if I was China, I wouldn't take Taiwan because obviously, I mean, imagine what kind of depression that's going to put China in. I mean, we buy so much from China, we fuel their economy literally. So from a business and economic standpoint, it's going to be a lot of pain for China for something that's not really going to be much payoff. What do? They get Taiwan Semiconductor. Whoop-de-doo, like you're going to destroy your whole economy and divide the world over Taiwan. It's kind of ridiculous, but maybe they do want to split the world in half and let that be the beginning of China establishing itself as a dominant power. Maybe they're willing to take the pain to split the world.
That's why Russia and China are setting themselves up to be on a gold standard, on a precious metal standard. But if China takes Taiwan, that gives them direct access base to the Philippine Sea from a better vantage point than their coastal regions. So it's a military advantage for them to take it that far off of their own coast. So there's definitely something coming. Everybody's positioning themselves to have all their assets and cash locked into their holdings for some type of event. And I was telling people September 30th is probably going to be a pretty big day, but September and October consistently 1929, 1987, 2008. They're consistent with market crash months. So we're right in the situation where we've all been talking market crash. We see the insanity of the markets. The global economies are in the dumpster, and we're coming up on that same time frame again. So I've actually personally been stockpiling cash myself to buy any type of big dip opportunity we get coming forward. So And if there's not a crash and we don't dip, I still have my positions in my favorite companies. So I'll just be happy with the gains I make.
Yeah, the guys at Guggenheim, I pronounced his name wrong. Minerd, you could correct me which I am probably saying it wrong. He's saying 20% lower by mid October. That's what he's putting out there as of lately.
Yeah. I'm sure people that are putting out, they expect the market to come down. They're doing it because they're ready for it to come down. So, it might be a little biased, but I don't see anything getting better in the economy from a vantage point of a consumer. It looks worse to me day after day. So I don't know where we're having power problems now. Germany's told they got to cut 15% energy consumption for winter. California's got massive wildfires going on. There's the unemployment data was worse last month. So I'm not sure where they're getting how we're getting this consumer price index positivity and the Janet Yellen coming forward saying that the economy is strong and that everything's going to be okay. They said the same thing back in 2008, right before one of the worst crashes in history. So we'll see though. If you're in, you're in, and if it goes up, it goes up. But I tell people in a situation like this, don't have all your eggs in one basket and don't put all your cash into the market at a time like this. Have a little dry powder ready to go for any type of life-changing market dip. Have that little bit of cash. Like even $2,000, if we have another 2008 scenario crash and you got $2,000 sitting aside, I remember Ford was at $333 a share. And I bought that and sold at $6. If I would have been smart and held, because I was like 21. If I would have been smart and held, I could have sold out at $16 and my life would have taken a completely different course. So.
Yeah. So let's say China does take Taiwan. From an investment standpoint, what do you think is the best way to play that situation in terms of investing?
Me personally, I'm staying away from almost all Chinese stocks. Any ADS, ADRs, I'm completely out of them. If China takes Taiwan, it's obviously going to cause some type of, major semiconductor shortage. So in terms of speaking, if it affects the market and you see a company like NVIDIA tank or a company like Intel just bite the dust, like I'm talking 20, 30% downside because of the shock around the world, then they're going to have to be producing semiconductors in the future. You're looking at not only a 30% recovery, but possibly 20 to 30% upside with their new business and American-made product. So I would personally probably dump some money into Intel, knowing that they're looking to build that Ohio factory in the future if Taiwan Semiconductor is going to be accessed by China. Because I'll tell you this, the last thing you want is any type of semiconductor that's controlled by the CCP in your devices. Like even now they're talking about iPhones having problem with Chinese access too. It's just something that it's not good. There's a North American trade agreement where it specifically says that certain items can't be produced and bought by the U.S. military that are from foreign countries, specifically because of this reason. In today's day and age, they can make one tiny little chip that's in your phone that can send every little single piece of data they want back, or some type of chip that's going to be compromised to certain softwares. So there's a lot that goes on in that. I'd be buying across the market, but I would probably be looking at Intel if there is a Taiwan grab by China and we see a market impact because of it.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to play it. That and probably gold whenever there's a lot of conflict like that, like military potential or actual military conflict, gold usually it gets really strong. But I mean, if you have this situation with China, I mean, imagine places like Target and Walmart. I mean, they're just going to be screwed, man. Like, what portion of their products come from China? Like, they're not going to have like half of the products they have. They're not going to have to sell, and that's just going to destroy their earnings. I would think at least.
See, that's where our government's pretty compromised too, because you got Walmart and Target and corporations like that do a lot of lobbying and they do it so they can get these products in from China, which I told some people 2 years ago. I was walking through Walmart looking around at all this stuff, right? Just stuff. So this is completely unsustainable. We're talking about environmental hazards globally, global warming, but we're sitting here buying products in mass production made by a country that has the lowest EPA standards out of any other country except for India. And do you really need to go buy that's part of the American wealth problem too. Why so many Americans are broke is because they consistently move from apartment to apartment buying cheap Walmart products that end out in the dumpster when they move. I see it every day. I'm still in my apartment here in Albuquerque, hopefully getting ready to be in a house here if the market cools down. But I see endless items out in the dumpster from people moving in and out, and they're all from Walmart. That's where all their money goes. So I personally would like to see Walmarts and Sam's Clubs and stuff like that calm down a little bit. I don't think we need that much product out all the time. But at the same time, I know a lot of inner city people depend on it. So,
Yeah, man, we're definitely heading for some interesting times. I think a lot of things are going to change in the coming years, and I think investors need to really be on their feet or on their toes, trying to make adjustments to the changing environment. But thank you for your input, man.
yeah, thanks for bringing it up. That was a really good conversation. Appreciate it. I literally, the post I put up top today was just exactly about that, with some type of action from Russia or China causing this market collapse coming up here, if there is one.
I think I double put it up there. I put up and then yours came through. But yeah, I 100% agree with you, Spence, as far as that goes. And yeah, the fires have been pretty bad here in California. The smoke is awful. So yeah, just if you're in California, obviously check the air quality before you go outdoors to do anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so bad here in New Mexico because we have the smoke coming from Cali, and then we have the controlled burns that are doing here. So my allergies have been absolutely maxed out for the past 3 weeks. It's horrible.
I wanted to ask Cassandra. I just like saying that. So I'm guessing it wasn't Michael Burry who you heard all of this from in a space, right?
Yeah, man, he blocked me. Like, what the heck? Like, I was just so I went to med school and he went to med school as well. He didn't do residency, and I found some interesting stuff around some new biologics for cancer treatment. Something I'm really excited about. My mother suffered from pancreatic cancer. She survived it, so it's something I'm interested in, passionate about, and it's something I just try to keep up with. So it's just something interesting I found. I tried to share it with him on one of his posts, and next thing I know, like, I'm blocked, and I never comment on this guy's stuff. And he's like somebody I look up to, and I'm like, wow, man, what a jerk.
Well, so just for the record, in our DMs, by the way, this is Davis speaking. He goes by Cassandra in honor of Michael Burry, right? I let him know that Michael Burry blocked me, and you were kind of saying, like, why did he block you? Did you comment a lot on his stuff? And I told you no, like, not at all. And I had no idea. And then right after that, you got blocked by him. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. It's so rude of him, and how dare him. And I think we should get our pitchforks and just go after him. I mean, what a jerk. What a jerk. But in his defense, I remember him coming out with a tweet about the laser eyes right before he had blocked me, and he said something about, are these all bots? Like, he thought that people with the laser eyes were bots or something, and we had all done the green laser eyes for AMC holders, and maybe he thought I was a fake account. There are a lot of fake accounts of me, so maybe he just thought he was doing the right thing. Now, as far as him blocking you for sharing that article or that information and asking him about it, that's just wrong. I'm mad at him for that. So I'm more angry that he blocked you than him blocking me, because I really I don't really look up to the guy. I don't really care, to be honest. But I'm sorry that he blocked you, Davis.
Yeah, it's fine. I appreciate that. And but isn't he the one that kind of got the whole GameStop thing going? Isn't he one of the main guys that like kind of kicked all that off, or is that wrong?
Not that I'm aware of. No. I believe he's more of a short guy. But I don't know. I mean,
he
Swing
was
would know more.
He was long GME early. He sold out early. He paper handed at like 40, but he got in early before Cohen, before DFV, before.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He
Swing.
actually wrote them emails and tried to get a board seat, right? Something like that. He was trying to convince them that.
That might be. I did not hear that. I do remember him specifically talking about how hard it was for him to recall his shares. It took him like months and months to get his shares back that were on loan before a major vote. So there is that. But yeah, he sold at like 40 or average around 40. So he got out pretty early in the January run up, but he made 4 or 5x or something. So it isn't like he didn't do bad, but he definitely made his money and then pieced out on that.
And to be honest, that's probably the responsible way to do it. If you're up 4 or 5x on something in a very short period of time, like there's very few times in your trading career that you're going to have an opportunity like that. And nobody, hindsight's 20/20. After the fact, it's like, man, I should have done that, but you can't really think like that completely. So, maybe it was a good idea on his part. Maybe that's why he's successful. Who knows, man?
Can I ask a question unrelated to anything y'all have been talking about?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
I just got on and like I say, big supporter of AMC. Been in it for over, I won't say over, about 2 years. Been a long time. Not the point. Either way, we're talking about the fires in California. I'm a chef here in Louisville, Kentucky, long ways away, but we do have a UPS hub, and we get stuff overnighted easily from California, New York, wherever. Do you feel like the food in California is just as bad as it is here in Louisville, or we can't get any type of fresh produce at all? Is that something that in California that y'all are experiencing, that your salads wilted, your salads are not green, they're just shitty, like anything, and carrots even. My carrots come in 2 days later, they're moldy. Like, is that something that y'all are experiencing in California?
So with fruit and vegetables, at least for me, it's seasonal, right? So like you want to, like salad, I believe is grown during the winter. So we're not into the winter. So whatever they're selling is probably, I don't know. I try to think about like what's in season and then go with that. But no, we have pretty good produce. I do notice like this time of year, apples are just not as good. But with fall come, fresh, new, good apples and all of that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how. Do you guys get shipments of produce from California?
I could exactly tell you where we get it from, but I know that with having being one of the main UPS hubs here, that we get everything from everywhere. But it's more of a lettuce thing for me, more of a the greenery, not the apples and the fruits and stuff like that. Of course, lemons, limes, and oranges are shit right now. It's insanely crappy, but
yeah, that's also a winter thing. So, but I was gonna say I recommend growing your own. Grow your own. It's just way better. Not financial advice, but you can like cut the bottom off of lettuce and literally just stick it into some soil and it'll grow, and it's just so much better.
Right.
Yeah, I would say leafy greens are much more susceptible to rot in shipping, and with shipping delays, it would make sense to me that that would be the thing that would go first and be harder to get from point A to point B. Is just because it doesn't last, it doesn't have the shelf life.
Right. It's just never been this way. I mean, I've got people in Montana at the UPS hub up there that, they tell me when they ship it out, it looks great, and then it gets to us a day later and it's crap and whatnot.
Well, fresh produce did change a lot here in California when they did what they did. The government with Central California basically did a man-made dust bowl and didn't allow irrigation of tons of crops and farmers. If you drive from Northern California to Southern California down 5, you can see all of these just dead orchards and everything because of the government wanting to preserve this little tiny fish in the rivers and the lakes called the spelt. So I had never even heard of it before, but apparently the irrigation for, humans to be able to eat our fresh produce was, outweighed by these little fish that needed to apparently survive. So I have my own political opinions on the matter. But yeah, so ever since then, produce definitely changed in the last few years. But I mean, for the most part, it seems to be okay. We get a lot of stuff from Mexico here in California.
No, absolutely. I lived in Eureka for years. Well, Amazon Business steers toward more sustainable just saw the amount of stuff left on the side of the road saying, "Hey, take me," because nobody wants it, and it was just the best produce ever. And now I'm in Louisville and I can't even get a shipment from California that's worth selling as a salad.
Sustainability. I feel good.
But
what's next?
Thank you for your insight. If you have anything else
It's a car that runs on positive vibes.
I'll be quiet for the rest
I love people.
Good time. Well, maybe.
Sustainability.
Just wondering if it was just as bad
Amazon
as
Business, partnering with enterprise leaders for smart business buying.
The fresh in Louisville having the UPS hub, in our downtown area, and that's where everything happens. So, thank you for your input.
That's interesting. It also sort of freaks me out just because you've heard of them kind of pre-planning for these food shortage things, and then different food plants getting lit on fire, just randomly burning down, and all of this craziness. So I don't know if it's just sheer coincidence or, it freaks me out. And all over the world, they've already kind of began planting that seed, no pun intended, of there being food shortages. And blaming it on the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
And I get all my lettuce from Russia. Personally, I mean that's where I normally
Russian lettuce, long on Russian lettuce.
The best arugula.
We're going to jail.
Russia. It's amazing.
Wait, they have the best what?
Arugula in Russia.
Arugula. That's so specific. Oh my goodness.
It's my favorite leafy green, but
They put it on pizza here in California. I know I'm going to get so many people are going to unfollow me for this, but I actually put it on my pizza sometimes. But not hot, at the end. After the pizza's cooked, they will put it on and drizzle it with pesto.
I see Putin as more of a microgreens kind of person. I don't know.
Bean sprouts.
I do love a good bean sprout. The little things reaching out, just dying to be on my plate.
I'm soaked the bad boys in soy sauce.
Oh yeah, we have a great soy sauce. We do a bourbon barrel aged soy sauce here in Louisville with the Bourbon Barrel Foods, and it is amazing. The first micro soy sauce company in the United States, as far as I know. But he does everything. He smokes everything with bourbon barrels because it's Kentucky. So we have bourbon barrel smoked salt, peppers, paprika, everything you can imagine we smoke with bourbon barrels. But the microgreens that are in Louisville are amazing, but they're so expensive. You know what I mean? It's if we could bring stuff in from California one day, they're going to be fine, but it just doesn't seem like they are fine. And that's my whole thing is I know California is going through a heck of a thing, but save us some of your good romaine. That's all I want is just good romaine.
Adam Aron just tweeted 2009 Avatar was the highest grossing movie of all time. Next week, it's back at AMC Theaters to prep us all for Avatar 2 on Friday, September 23rd. I will host an IMAX with laser 3D screening of Avatar at San Fran's AMC Metreon? Metreon? I don't even know how to say it. 16. Metreon 16. Join me there. So there you go, Tara. You need to go to San Francisco on the 23rd.
I'm gonna mute. Love y'all.
Do y'all mind if I circle back to the China conversation real quick?
Oh, go for it.
So I heard, I was actually listening to a call Cassandra was listening. It was on, I don't know, yesterday or the day before. And they were talking about 78 or 80% of 80 countries within China shutting down because of the zero tolerance of COVID and them making up 30% of the commodities market that are not, contributing or making or producing whatever. And with the 3x leveraged economy that they are, y'all truly believe that they're in a position to attack Taiwan?
Yeah, that was my biggest point. And I think I mentioned it. I mentioned that today. I don't know if I mentioned that in this space. But to me, it would seem like not an ideal time for China to do something like this because it would put them in an unreal depression, I would assume. But you have to think about it also from the standpoint that it would also put the United States in a bad position. I don't know. It could be one of those situations where they just want to rip the Band-Aid off and literally divide the globe. It could be that simple, and they don't care if they put everybody in their country under or put their citizens through a lot of pain. I mean, you see what they do already. They're not concerned about human rights or the people of China. That's just kind of how it is.
But I mean, I think with the Ukraine-Russian, conflict, I feel like Russians not even wanting to do their own war, and it's taken them forever to battle Ukraine in a sense, and it's not like they're just devouring them and beating them to a pulp. I mean, it's been a struggle for them, and Russia, is supposed to have been, this great power, and I personally put China above them, but you look at a housing crisis inside China. You've already got $6 to $8 billion, foreclosures within the banking market there, and they're rioting in which they shut it down quick. But I mean, mentality or sentiment of their own people going to war, I just don't. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen. It just doesn't make sense to me. Not that war makes sense to me.
And I agree with you. I mean, if you look at the risk for the reward, you risk putting your economy through a complete devastating depression for Taiwan. I mean, I don't understand, other than it just being, it's not really about Taiwan. For them, it might not even really be about taking Taiwan, but rather cutting the United States off. And this is like ripping the Band-Aid off and ripping the connection between the United States and China, just completely cutting that in half, and then convincing the world to really support China and view China as the optimal place for the countries of the world to put their money, because that's what we are. We're the optimal place for the countries of the world to put their money. That's why the dollar is so strong right now. The whole globe is like collapsing, right? All the economies are collapsing or on the verge of collapsing. Everybody's buying the US dollar because we're the most optimal place for capital. And China wants to be that. And they won't, if this does happen, they won't completely be that, but we'll possibly be in a situation where we'll have to share that with China, if that makes sense.
Personally, I think the whole idea of China attacking Taiwan is oversold. Alternatively, the way I would think about it, if I was China, and the way that China tends to run everything is long game. Taiwan is an island. They have to import everything. Their number one import place is China. So if they're going to do anything, they would devastate them through, cutting them off from imports, cut them off from food, or, whatever other crucial necessities are, and have Taiwan beg them to get, to be part of China, so that they would become, again, a part of China, versus the odd relationship that they currently have, where they're pseudo China, kind of free, kind of not. That is much more of the Chinese way of battle, in my opinion, is to go the long game and force someone to want what you want, rather than just go out and attack them with your Navy and with your Air Force and that type of thing, because that doesn't really serve their purpose. If they attack Taiwan and destroy their infrastructure and stuff, what assets do they get? Nothing. Instead, they can say, okay, we're going to start creating huge tariffs for any exports to Taiwan, and that actually causes pressure for the entire globe, because then everything that Taiwan exports has more of a tariff on it, because of the tariffs that they're paying to China, and China gets more money that way. That is the way that I would foresee anything like that going, versus straight on attack. But that it's just another way to think about it.
Let me counter you with this idea. China takes Taiwan. We put sanctions on China. We stop getting products from China. Our stock market completely collapses. Our economy collapses because all of our companies don't have products to sell. It trickles through everything. Tons of people lose their jobs. This supply chain issue and having enough products on shelf issue, it would take several years to get all of that worked out. I mean, just imagine all the products that are sold. It would take quite some time. Nobody trusts the United States. They don't. The countries around the world don't trust the U.S. dollar. They don't trust the United States, because we're not collecting any taxes to be able to support the bonds that we have, because we're not selling any products, because the economy's in a depression. And let's keep in mind also, China's going through the same thing, but their currency is backed by gold. What if they have huge amounts of gold, like on levels that we can't even imagine? We know that they've been stockpiling gold, but we don't even really know actually how much gold they have. So now you're left with a situation where they're telling the world, all right, we're in a depression. The U.S. is in a depression. But where do you want to put your money? Do you want it to be in cash? That they don't. I mean, on paper, everybody thinks and everybody says that we've got the most amount of gold reserves or whatever. But what if in fact China actually has more gold reserves by several orders of magnitude? I mean, that would cause capital just to completely flow into China, just on that basis.
But aren't we I'm sorry, go ahead.
I disagree with the whole assumption, which is fine. I'm not trying to argue, but just the value of the U.S. dollar is the fact that we.
All right. Hey, everybody. Sorry, I got to cut her short. I am getting ready to go have dinner. I got to take my dog for a walk and do all kinds of human things, recharge everything. That was a 2.5 or more hour stream. I want to thank everyone for coming to the call. Thank you. Please subscribe so we can help push the algorithms out further into the YouTube community, which helps us generate more revenue, which means I buy more AMC gift cards to give out every month to you. To you, the people. That's what it's all about, man. Ad revenue buys AMC gift cards. I give them out to people on Twitter. I should be dropping some the 27th. That's when Google AdSense is supposed to pay for August. I should be dropping over $256, I believe, worth of AMC gift cards. It's going to be first come, first serve, posted, take a picture of it, put it immediately into your AMC Stubs wallet. If it redeems, you got it. If it doesn't redeem, you didn't get it. You got to be quick to the draw. You guys have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's Taco Tuesday. We had a great market day today. Usually Tuesdays are turnaround Tuesdays. We'll see what happens. I would love to see another 5 to 10% upside on AMC and Ape tomorrow. So thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Please like and sub. Froggy Stonks out.